Sleep matters. Stoicism. The world around you fades into the distance. The hum of daily life, the rush of responsibilities, the ever-growing tide of worry-all of it disappears as you find yourself standing in an unfamiliar place. And just to remind you, consider subscribing because sleep matters, just then stress scatters, and nothing else matters, right? Let's continue. The air is cool, carrying the scent of ancient stone and distant rain. You look down and see marble beneath your feet, polished by the footsteps of those who have walked this path before you. As your eyes adjust to the twilight, you realize you are no longer in your own time. The streets are lined with towering columns, their surfaces etched with the wear of centuries. A city, grand yet solemn, stretches before you. This is Rome, the beating heart of an empire. Merchants call from their stalls, soldiers march in perfect rhythm, and philosophers gather in quiet corners, speaking in hushed yet profound tones. There is wisdom in the air here, an energy of thought, of discipline, of control. You begin to walk, drawn by an unseen force, until you reach an open courtyard bathed in the glow of flickering oil lamps. And there, seated on a stone bench beneath the vast Roman sky, is a man. His face is worn yet composed, his gaze steady, as if he has seen all that life can offer: triumph and disaster, joy and suffering, power and loss. This is Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, yet a student of philosophy above all, a ruler of millions, yet a man who spends his nights writing to himself in quiet contemplation. His words have endured the test of time, a testament to the unshakable wisdom of Stoicism. Without looking up, he speaks. "Tell me, traveler, what disturbs your mind?" There is a weight in his voice, but not one of judgment. It is a voice that carries understanding, as if he knows all too well the burdens of human existence. You hesitate, unsure how to answer, but then the words spill out. You speak of your worries, your anxieties, the weight of things beyond your control, the uncertainty of the future, the pain of the past, the world that moves too fast, that changes too much, that never seems to rest. Marcus Aurelius listens, and then he smiles, the smallest hint of something both knowing and kind. You suffer, he says, because you wish for things to be different than they are. He gestures to the sky where the stars shine in silent indifference. The world is what it is, he continues. It does not change to suit your desires, nor does it bend to your will. You cannot control the rising of the sun or the passing of the seasons. You cannot stop the river from flowing or the wind from shifting course. But there is something you can control, something more powerful than fate itself. His gaze settles on you now, piercing yet calm. You can control yourself. These words linger in the air, weighty, undeniable. This is the core of Stoicism, realization that while the world may be chaotic, your mind does not have to be. It is not about retreating from life, nor about denying emotion, but about mastering it. It is about understanding what can and cannot be changed, and focusing only on what is within your power. Marcus Aurelius stands and begins to walk, and you follow. As he moves through the city, he speaks, sharing the wisdom that has guided warriors, rulers, and seekers of truth for centuries. Imagine, he says, that you are a sailor caught in the midst of a violent storm. The waves are towering, the wind howls, the ship groans beneath the strain. What do? Do you curse the sea, demand that it calm itself? No, you tighten the sails, you adjust your course, you do what is within your power. The storm is not yours to control, but how you navigate it. That is your choice. He turns to face you. Life, he says, is no different. The street opens up into a vast forum, where statues of past rulers loom over the city. Marcus Aurelius stops beside one, his hand resting lightly against the cold stone. You must learn the difference between what is yours and what is not. Dichotomy of control. There are things you can change: your thoughts, your actions, your character. And there are things you cannot: the words of others, the course of history, the inevitable hand of fate. He lets his hand drop. Spend your energy only on what is yours. You let these words settle, feeling their weight. How often have you agonized over things beyond your reach, the opinions of others, the past, which cannot be changed, the future, which cannot be predicted? And yet, how little time have you spent on the one thing truly within your control: yourself? The emperor walks again, and you move with him, weaving through the ancient streets of Rome. People will wrong you, he continues. They will lie, they will cheat, they will speak ill of you. And what will you do? Will you rage? Will you curse the world for its injustice? Or will you remind yourself that their actions are theirs alone, and that your reaction is your own? He glances at you, his eyes filled with quiet certainty. Do not let the behavior of others steal your peace. A group of Roman citizens pass by, engaged in loud debate. One man, his face red with frustration, throws up his hands in exasperation. See there? Marcus Aurelius gestures toward them. A man consumed by his emotions. He is a slave, not to Rome, not to any master, but to his own mind. Freedom is not found in wealth or power, it is found in self-mastery. The night deepens. The city breathes around you, alive with a rhythm that has pulsed for centuries. You fear change, he says, but change is the nature of all things. Everything you see around you will one day be dust, just as those before us have faded into history. Nothing lasts, and so we must learn to embrace impermanence, to accept that every moment is fleeting. He looks toward the sky once more. Memento mori, remember one day you will die. There is no sadness in his voice, no fear, only understanding. This is not a curse, but a gift. If you remember that life is temporary, you will learn to cherish each moment. You will not waste time in anger, in regret, in longing for things that were never yours to control. You inhale deeply. The cool night air fills your lungs, and for the first time in a long while, something within you begins to shift. There is peace in these words. There is strength. The emperor steps forward once more, his figure framed by the flickering torches that line the streets of Rome. We are all travelers, he says, passing through this world for but a short while. Walk your path with honor, with virtue, with clarity, and when your time comes, you will leave without fear. He turns to you one final time. Live wisely. Live well. The night stretches on. The city hums with life. And you stand there feeling the weight of centuries, the echo of wisdom that has endured the rise and fall of empires. You take a step forward, and then another. For now, you understand. The only true power is over oneself. The night air carries a soft breeze, rustling the fabric of Marcus Aurelius's robe as he walks ahead. You follow him through the quiet streets of Rome, your mind turning over the words he has spoken. The weight of your worries feels different now, not vanished, but lighter, as if you have been handed a map to navigate them. He pauses near the entrance of a vast courtyard, where the statues of emperors and scholars stand as silent witnesses to time. A flame flickers from a distant torch, casting long shadows across the stone. Marcus Aurelius turns to you, his expression calm, unwavering. Tell me, he says, what is it that you fear most? The question lingers, heavy in the air. You think of the uncertainties that have gnawed at your mind failure. Loss, the unknown, the fear of what tomorrow might bring, of mistakes that cannot be undone, of paths that may lead nowhere. The emperor watches your face, reading your hesitation. Then he speaks. You are afraid, he says, because you are attached to things that do not belong to you. He walks forward, his footsteps steady, deliberate. Imagine a man, he continues, who builds his happiness upon wealth. Every coin he gains brings him comfort, but every coin he loses fills him with dread. He does not own his wealth owns him. Or consider a man who ties his peace to the words of others. When praised, he soars. When insulted, he collapses. He is not free, for he has placed his happiness in the hands of strangers. He stops beside a statue of an old philosopher, the features worn with age, the stone chiseled by time. But the man who builds his peace upon virtue, he asks, he cannot be shaken. His wealth may vanish, his reputation may crumble, his body may wither, but his soul remains his own. The silence stretches between you. He has said nothing of avoiding loss, of preventing hardship, of securing comfort. Instead, he speaks of strength, of endurance, of choosing stability within. The world will take much from you, he says, but it cannot take what you do not give it. You feel the depth of these words. How often have you let the outside world dictate your inner state? How often have you fought against the inevitable, resisting what must be? The pain of loss, the unpredictability of fate, the truth that nothing stays the same. Marcus Aurelius steps forward, his hands clasped behind his back. There is a phrase, he says, his voice thoughtful. Amor fati, the love of fate. His eyes meet yours, and for the first time you notice something behind his wisdom, something deeper, something unshakable. A Stoic does not merely endure his fate. He embraces it. Every misfortune, every hardship, every moment of joy and sorrow, it is all part of the path. To wish for anything else is to wish for the impossible. He gestures to the city around you. This empire will fall one day, he says. Rome, the greatest force in the world, will crumble to dust. The streets you walk now will be ruins. The statues will fade. The voices of the powerful will be nothing but echoes. And yet, he continues, that is not a tragedy. It is simply how things are. He turns to you again, his expression both serene and resolute. Do you see? The river does not grieve when it changes course. The tree does not resist the turning of seasons. The sky does not weep for the clouds that pass. His voice is calm, steady. To fight against life is to fight against nature itself. You inhale, feeling the cold night air fill your lungs. The thoughts in your mind begin to shift, rearrange. You think of the times you have fought against reality, demanding it be different. The times you have clung to something long after it was gone. The times you have raged against change, fearing what lay ahead. But what if, instead, you let go? What if you welcomed each moment, not as an obstacle, but as a gift? Marcus Aurelius watches you carefully, as if seeing the shift in your mind. Tell me, he says, if you knew you would die tomorrow, what would you do? The question is sudden, unexpected. Your instinct is to push it away, to reject the thought, but something inside you stills. If tomorrow was your last, how much of today would you have wasted? The anger, the regret, the hours spent chasing things that do not matter how much of it would seem small, insignificant. He nods, sensing the unspoken answer. Memento mori, he says softly. Remember, you must die. There is no fear in his voice. No sadness, only clarity. This truth is not meant to frighten you, he continues. It is meant to wake you up, to remind you that time is precious, that life is fleeting, that every moment wasted is a moment you will never have again. He lets the words settle. We walk this earth for only a short while, he says. Do not waste it in bitterness. Do not waste it in fear. Do not waste it waiting for happiness to arrive, when it has always been within you. His gaze lingers on you, steady and knowing. There will be days of hardship, he says. There will be days of suffering, but suffering is not the enemy. It is the teacher. He steps closer. When you fall, do not curse the ground. Rise. When you are tested, do not break grow. When fate takes something from you, do not disperuse what remains. The city is quiet now, only the distant crackle of torches breaking the silence. He looks up at the vast sky, at the endless stretch of stars. Look at them, he says. They shine, not because they try, but because they simply are. That is what you must become unshaken, unwavering, a light that does not dim, no matter the darkness. The words settle in your mind, not as fleeting wisdom, but as something deeper, a truth that has always been there, waiting to be seen. Marcus Aurelius turns toward the path ahead, his silhouette bathed in the golden glow of firelight. He walks slowly, steadily, his posture straight, his steps certain, and then, without turning back, he speaks one final time. Do not ask for an easy life, he says. Ask for the strength to live a good one. You watch him disappear into the night, his presence fading into the vastness of time. But his words remain. The world around you begins to shift again. The stone beneath your feet, the columns, the statue soul of it starts to dissolve, like mist in the morning light. You are no longer in Rome. You are here, in your own time, in your own life. But something is different now. The burdens that once seemed unbearable feel lighter. The worries that once consumed you feel distant. The fear of what lies ahead has been replaced with something new: acceptance, strength, clarity. You take a breath, steady and deep, and you step forward, carrying with you the wisdom of the past, the unshakable truth that you are not at the mercy of life, you are its master. The night feels different now. The weight of the words lingers in the air, settling deep within you. The world has not changed, yet something within you has. You take a slow breath, feeling the stillness around you. The streets of ancient Rome may have faded, but their wisdom remains. Marcus Aurelius is gone, but his teachings remain with you. The echoes of his voice, steady and unwavering, guide your thoughts. His words were not just lessons, but reminders of what you have always known but perhaps forgotten. You step forward, the silence embracing you, and the realization begins to unfold. Life will continue, just as it always has. The world will spin, seasons will change, fortunes will rise and fall. Yet none of it can dictate your peace unless you allow it. You find yourself back in the present, yet time feels irrelevant now. The city around you is modern, the streets no longer paved with ancient stone, yet the lessons remain unchanged. The faces you pass belong to people consumed by their own struggles, caught in the tides of emotion, unaware that they are not bound to them. How often have you done the same? How often have you let anger consume you, let disappointment steal your joy, let the fear of tomorrow rob you of today? And yet, the truth has been there all along. The only thing you have ever had control over is yourself. The mind is a fortress, Marcus had said. If you build it well, nothing can break through its walls. You think back to the times you have let external forces dictate your emotions, the insults that stung, the failures that crushed you, the regrets that whispered late into the night. But what if they had no power? What if they were merely passing shadows, flickering in the firelight, unable to touch you unless you let them? The realization settles deeper now. The past cannot harm you. The future does not control you. The only thing that exists is this moment, and within it, the choice of how to live. The words of Epictetus come to mind. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Suddenly, you see the world differently. Every challenge is an opportunity. Every hardship is a lesson. Every moment of pain is a chance to grow. Life is not against you, it is shaping you, forging you like fire forges steel. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the thought take root. The Stoics did not seek to eliminate suffering, they sought to understand it, to use it, to become better because of it. You think of the great minds who lived by these principles, of Seneca, who faced exile with dignity, who lost everything yet remained steadfast, of Epictetus, a former slave who found freedom within his mind, of Marcus Aurelius, who bore the weight of an empire, yet never lost himself within it. None of them had easy lives. None were spared hardship, and yet they endured. Not just endured, but thrived. They did not run from suffering. They met it head-on, with the quiet certainty that they were stronger than anything life could throw at them. You open your eyes, and the world feels clearer. The noise of life, the chaos of existence, it is all still there, but it does not disturb you now, because you understand. You cannot control the storm, but you can stand unmoved within it. A distant voice seems to whisper, not from the outside, but from within. A voice that has always been there, waiting for you to listen. Live with virtue, accept what comes, master yourself, and in doing so, you will find true peace. The journey is not over. It never is. But now, you know the way forward. And with that knowledge, you take the first step, Buddhism. Imagine, for a moment, that you are walking through a dense forest, the towering trees swaying gently with the rhythm of the wind. The golden glow of dawn peeks through the branches, casting long, dappled shadows on the moss-covered path ahead. You hear the distant call of birds, the quiet hum of life, awakening with the rising sun. There is no rush, no urgency, only the slow, deliberate steps of your bare feet on the soft earth. In the distance, you see a figure sitting beneath a great Bodhi tree. His posture is effortless, his breathing steady, his presence calm, as if he is one with the universe itself. He does not move, does not stir, yet the very air around him seems to hum with an unspoken wisdom. As you approach, the realization dawns upon you: this is Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, the awakened one. For a moment, time stands still. He does not look at you, but he knows you are there. And then, softly, he speaks. All suffering begins in the mind. His words are simple, yet they carry the weight of centuries. You feel their truth before you fully understand them. Buddhism is not just a religion, it is a path, a philosophy, a way of seeing the world beyond illusion. It is the search for enlightenment, for liberation from suffering, for an understanding of reality as it truly is. The story of the Buddha begins long ago in the kingdom of Kapilavastu, where a prince named Siddhartha was born into wealth and privilege. His father, the king, shielded him from all suffering, surrounding him with luxury, beauty, and pleasure. Yet, something inside him remained restless, unsettled. A life without suffering was not a life at all, was an illusion, a fragile dream that could shatter at any moment. One day, Siddhartha ventured beyond the palace walls. What he saw changed him forever. He encountered an old man, frail and bent with age. Then, a sick man, suffering in pain. Then a corpse, lifeless and still. And finally, a monk, serene and at peace, despite the world's suffering. In that moment, the illusion crumbled. Siddhartha saw that no wealth, no pleasure, no power could shield one from the realities of existence, aging, sickness, death. And so, he left behind his kingdom, his family, his name. He wandered into the forests, seeking the truth. For years, he searched. He studied with great teachers, practiced extreme asceticism, denied himself food, sleep, comfort, but none of it brought him closer to the answer. Until one day, he sat beneath a Bodhi tree, vowing not to rise until he had seen the truth. For days, he meditated. He faced his fears, his doubts, his desires. He confronted the illusions of the mind, the attachments that bound him to suffering. And then, in a moment of profound clarity, he awakened. He saw reality as it was, without illusion, without attachment. He saw the cycle of birth and rebirth, the cause of suffering, the path to liberation. And so, Siddhartha Gautama became the Buddha, awakened one. He turned to you now, his gaze steady, filled with infinite patience. Everything arises and passes away. That is the nature of existence. The breath you take in, the thoughts that cross your mind, the emotions that stir within you, everything is impermanent. Clinging to them, fearing their loss, grasping for more, this is what causes suffering. The Buddha spoke of the Four Noble Truths, the foundation of his teaching. Dukkha life is suffering. Pain, loss, fear, longing, it is an inevitable part of existence. Samadaya suffering has a cause. It arises from craving, from attachment, from our refusal to accept impermanence. Nirodha's suffering can end. When we let go of our desires, when we release our attachments, peace follows. Magga, there is a path to end suffering, the Noble Eightfold Path, a way of living, with wisdom, morality, and meditation. He does not ask you to believe, only to see for yourself, to sit with your own suffering, to observe the way the mind clings and resists, to understand that peace is not found outside but within. You sit down beside him beneath the Bodhi tree. The world around you is the same, yet something feels different. There is no need to grasp, no need to chase. You are simply here, breathing, being. The path to awakening begins with a single step, and in this moment you take it. You remain beneath the great Bodhi tree, the presence of the Buddha still lingering beside you, like a soft echo in the wind. His words settle deep within, their meaning unfolding layer by layer, like petals of a lotus opening with the touch of sunlight. The world around you is unchanged, yet something within you feels lighter, as if a burden you were not even aware of has begun to loosen its grip. The Buddha spoke of suffering not to burden the heart, but to liberate it. If suffering exists, and if it has a cause, then it can also have an end. This is the great promise of his teaching, not an escape from life, but an understanding so profound that life itself is no longer a prison. You watch as a traveler approaches, weary from the long road, carrying the weight of his journey in his tired steps. The Buddha turns to him, offering no judgment, no demandingly presence. The traveler bows deeply before speaking. "Master," he says, "I have wandered far, seeking peace, seeking wisdom. But the world is restless, full of desires and distractions. No matter where I go, suffering follows. How can I find peace in a world so full of chaos?" The Buddha does not answer immediately. He lifts his hand and points to the river that flows gently beside the tree. "Tell me," he says, "if a man stands in this river and fights against the current, will he not suffer?" The traveler nods. "And if he simply lets go, allows the river to carry him, what then?" The traveler considers this. "Then he will float." The Buddha smiles. "So it is with life. Suffering comes when we resist, when we cling, when we demand that the world be different than it is. But when we let go, when we accept the nature of things, we find peace." The traveler's face softens, his shoulders relaxing as if for the first time in years. He bows again, and without another word, he continues on his path, lighter than before. You listen, absorbing the meaning behind the exchange. The Buddha was not telling the traveler to surrender, but to see the world as it is. The river does not exist to punish or reward, it simply flows. Life, too, moves in this way. The more we resist, the more we suffer. The more we let go, the more we find peace. The wind shifts, rustling the leaves of the Bodhi tree. The Buddha's voice, calm and steady, continues. The path is not about believing. It is about seeing clearly without illusion. This is why we walk the Noble Eightfold Path. You listen intently as he speaks of the path, the way to liberation. It is not a set of rules to be followed blindly, but a guide to a way of living that brings clarity, balance, and wisdom. Right view, to see the world as it truly is, not as we wish it to be. To recognize impermanence, to understand cause and effect, to accept that suffering is a part of life. Right intention. To cultivate thoughts of kindness, compassion, and wisdom. rather than desire, hatred, or ignorance. Right speech to speak with honesty and kindness, to avoid words that harm, deceive, or create division. Right action to act in ways that do not harm others, to live with integrity and compassion. Right livelihood, to earn a living in a way that aligns with one's values, avoiding professions that cause harm or suffering. Right effort, to make a consistent effort towards self-improvement, to cultivate good qualities and abandon harmful ones. Right mindfulness, to be fully present in each moment, aware of thoughts, feelings, and surroundings without attachment or aversion. Right concentration, to train the mind through meditation, cultivating stillness, clarity, and deep awareness. As he speaks, you feel the truth of these words not as distant ideals, but as something close, something real. This is not a philosophy that exists only in temples or scripture sit, is something to be lived, to be experienced in every breath, every step, every thought. You close your eyes, feeling the rhythm of your own breath, the way it rises and falls like waves upon the shore. The Buddha's voice is like the tide, gentle, persistent. Attachment is the root of suffering, he says. We cling to things as if they are permanent. We hold on to pleasure, fearing its loss. We resist pain, fearing its presence. But everything changes. Nothing stays. To find peace, we must let go. A memory rises in your mind, something you once held on to so tightly, something that caused you suffering simply because you could not accept its passing. Perhaps a person, a dream, a moment that slipped through your fingers like sand. You feel the weight of it, and then, as if following the Buddha's words, you let it go. It does not disappear, but it no longer holds you. The past is not a prison. The future is not a burden. Only this moment is real. You open your eyes, and the world seems different. Not because it has changed, but because you have. The Buddha does not ask for devotion. He does not demand belief. He simply offers a path, an open doorway through which one may step. He does not promise that the path is easy, but he assures you it is worth walking. The sky deepens into twilight. The first stars shimmer above, reflected in the quiet waters of the river. The Buddha sits in stillness, unmoving, timeless. He has spoken enough. Now, it is for you to decide. The path is before you. The choice is yours. The night deepens, and the Bodhi tree stands tall and unwavering, its leaves whispering softly in the gentle wind. You sit there, the words of the Buddha still echoing in your mind, not as mere teachings, but as something deeper, something that feels like a long-lost truth resurfacing from within. The air is cool, carrying the scent of earth and distant flowers, and in this moment, time seems to dissolve. The Buddha remains in quiet meditation, his breath steady, his presence as still as the mountains. Then, in the silence, he speaks again. What is it that troubles the mind most? Fear? Desire? Regret? These are like the waves of the ocean rising, falling, always changing. The wise do not cling to them. They watch, they understand, they let go. His words are not commands, not doctrines, but an invitation. An invitation to truly see what lies beneath the surface of our restless thoughts, our endless wants, our constant search for something more. And yet, how often do we truly stop? How often do we pause, not to escape, but to observe? The mind is like a wild horse, always running, always seeking the next destination. But what happens when it is still? You close your eyes, listening not just to the Buddha's words, but to the silence between them, to your own breath, to the faint sounds of the world, to the simple fact that you are here. You begin to understand. Peace is not something to be found. It is something to be uncovered, something that has always been there, hidden beneath the noise. The mind is everything, the Buddha says. What you think, you become. The statement lingers, heavy with meaning. You think of the times you have believed yourself to be trapped, powerless, small. You think of the moments when doubt clouded your vision, when fear dictated your choices. And now, sitting here, you wonder, what if it was never the world that held you back? What if it was only your own thoughts? In the flickering torchlight, the Buddha tells a story. There was once a man who lived in a house of mirrors. Everywhere he looked, he saw his own reflection, 1,000 versions of himself, distorted, stretched, changed. Some frightened him, some pleased him. But no matter how much he searched, he could not find his true self. He saw only illusions, reflections of reflections, and so he left. He walked beyond the mirrors, beyond the walls of his mind, until he reached a still lake. There, for the first time, he saw himself clearly, not through glass, not through distortion, but as he was. And in that moment, he was free. The story settles deep in your bones. You understand, how often have we lived inside the house of mirrors, seeing only the versions of ourselves created by fear, by expectation, by the world around us? How often have we mistaken those reflections for truth? You look at the Buddha, his face calm, unburdened. He has left that house. He has seen clearly. And now, so can you. Reality is not what we think it is, he says, and we are not what we think we are. Let go of the illusions, and what remains is something vast, something boundless. A thought arises within you, gentle but certain. If suffering comes from attachment, then freedom must come from release. But how does one truly let go? How does one step beyond the walls of their own mind? The Buddha answers as if he has read your thoughts. Meditation is the key, not to escape, but to see. To sit in stillness is to look into the depths of the mind, to witness its waves without being carried away by them. You remember the river he spoke of, the way it flows without resistance, without demand. You begin to see meditation is not about controlling the mind. It is about allowing the mind to settle, like a pond after a stone has been thrown. When the ripples fade, the water is clear. When the mind is quiet, truth can be seen. The Buddha breathes deeply, his voice softer now, like the last embers of a fire. To awaken is not to change the world, but to change how we see it. The world remains the same, but the one who sees it becomes different. This is the path, not a road to another place, but a return to what has always been. You look around at the darkness stretching across the land, at the stars hanging motionless in the sky. For the first time, you do not wish for anything to be different. There is no longing, no regret, no chase for something beyond this moment. There is only now, and somehow, now is enough. The Buddha stands, his simple robes flowing gently in the night breeze. He has spoken enough. He has shown the way. But it is not his path to walk, it is yours. Before he turns to leave, he says one last thing. Happiness is not found in tomorrow. It is not waiting in another place, another time, another life. It is here, now, in the breath, in the stillness. You need only open your eyes. And then, like the wind, like the river, he is gone. You remain beneath the Bodhi tree, alone, yet not alone. The world has not changed, and yet everything feels different. You take a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill your lungs, feeling the earth beneath you, feeling the quiet understanding that has settled in your heart. The journey has not ended, it has only begun. And you are ready. Solipsism. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that everything around you, every face you've ever known, every word you've ever heard, every place you've ever visited was nothing more than a projection of your own mind. That the entire world, the stars, the cities, the people, even time itself, existed only because you were there to perceive it. You sit up in bed, rubbing your eyes, expecting the feeling to pass. But it doesn't. The thought lingers. What if nothing outside of your consciousness is real? What if you are the only mind in existence? The idea sends a quiet chill through your spine. You step to the window and gaze at the world outside. The streets hum with life, people moving, talking, cars passing by, birds soaring in the sky. But the question echoes in your mind: do they exist beyond your perception, or are they merely figments of your imagination? This is solipsism, the most radical and unsettling of all philosophical concepts. It is the idea that only one's own mind is certain to exist, and everything else is merely an extension of consciousness, a dream, a hallucination, an elaborate illusion conjured by the mind itself. The thought is intoxicating. If true, it means that every conversation you've had, every act of kindness you've witnessed, every tragedy you've mourned, they may have never existed at all, except as fleeting moments within your own awareness. The entire history of the world, the rise and fall of empires, the discoveries of science, the poetry of love and loss, what if it was never real? What if it was only you, always and forever? A philosopher sits across from you, his gaze steady, his expression unreadable. He has been waiting for you to arrive at this moment of doubt. Tell me, he says, can you prove that anyone besides yourself exists? You hesitate. You could argue that you see others, that you hear them, that you feel the presence of the world around you. But you realize that none of this is proof. After all, your dreams feel real when you're inside them. A memory, a conversation, even pain, are these not things that can be created by the mind? The philosopher leans forward, lowering his voice. You cannot step outside of your own consciousness, he says. Every piece of evidence you gather comes through your perception. And if perception is the only thing you can be sure of, then how do you know that what you call reality is not merely the dream of a solitary mind? You try to resist the idea, but you cannot deny its power. Solipsism is not just a theory, it is a door that, once opened, cannot be easily shut. But the philosopher is not done. Consider this, he says. When you close your eyes, the world disappears, or at least it disappears from your awareness. What if that is the only kind of disappearance that truly matters? What if things exist only because you perceive them? You think of childhood moments when you wondered if the world ceased to exist when you were not looking. The eerie feeling of walking alone at night, questioning if reality itself was watching you. The unshakable notion that everything could be an illusion crafted, maintained, and controlled by your own mind. You glance at the philosopher. He waits, watching you. You wonder, is he real? Or is he merely another thought, another creation of your solitary consciousness? The silence stretches between you. Finally, he speaks again. If you are the only mind in existence, then tell me, what does that mean? Are you alone, or are you infinite? Is this a nightmare, or is it liberation? You do not have an answer, not yet. The weight of the question presses against you, sinking deep into your bones. If the world is just a dream of your mind, then every relationship you've had, every voice that has comforted you, every embrace you've ever cherished, what do they mean? And if you are truly alone in the vastness of your own creation, is that a curse or the ultimate power? You stare into the distance. The sky stretches endlessly, stars flickering in the night. And you wonder, do they shine for themselves, or do they exist only because you are here to see them? The philosopher does not wait for an answer. He knows the journey is just beginning. The philosopher's words still echo in your mind as you walk through the dimly lit streets. The air is crisp, the scent of rain lingers, and the faint glow of streetlights flickers in the puddles beneath your feet. The world appears solid, tangible, undeniable, and yet a seed of doubt has been planted. With every step, the question lingers, what if none of this is real? You reach out and run your fingers along the cool iron railing of a nearby bridge. The sensation feels real. But isn't that the very nature of dreams? They feel real until you wake up. What if waking up is impossible because there is no dreamer, only the dream. The philosopher's voice returns, softer this time, a whisper in your thoughts. Think of a memory. Perhaps a childhood moment playing in the sun, laughter echoing, a loved one smiling at you. It feels real, doesn't it? But where is it now? It exists only in your mind. Your past is nothing more than a collection of memories. And what is the present, if not another memory forming? You hesitate. The world around you seems unchanged, but something within you shifts. If everything is perception, then nothing can be truly verified outside of your experience. The moon hanging above you, the city stretching into the horizon, the distant hum of life, are they truly there? Or do they simply exist because you expect them to? You recall a story of a man lost in a vast, empty desert. After days of wandering, he stumbles upon a house. He knocks on the door, desperate for help, and an old man answers. The old man welcomes him inside, gives him food, and offers him shelter. The lost man, overcome with gratitude, says, "I thought I was going to die out there. You saved me." The old man smiles. "Did I? Or did you create me in your moment of need?" The man laughs at the absurdity of the statement. But as the night passes, a terrible thought grips him. He looks around. There are no other signs of life. No footprints in the sand, no distant cities, no evidence of existence beyond this house and its lone inhabitant. And he wonders, was the old man real before he knocked on the door? Or was he summoned into existence by his own desperation? You pause, heart pounding. What if the same is true for you? Every person you've ever met, were they already there, waiting for you? Or did they appear only when you turned the corner, when you entered the room, when you reached out to them? You turn around and watch the people moving through the streets, strangers lost in their own thoughts, their own realities. But do they have their own thoughts? Do they have realities of their own? Or are they merely shadows, playing their parts in a script you unknowingly wrote? The philosopher had spoken of a great debate that has tormented thinkers for centuries. If only the self can be known, then what does that mean for the rest of the world? In the 17th century, the philosopher René Descartes proposed a solution. Cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. He realized that even if everything around him was an illusion, even if his senses deceived him, there was one thing he could not doubt: his own existence as a thinking being. But was that enough? What if Descartes was only half right? What if you do think, therefore you exist, but only you? What if everyone else is just an extension of that thought? A chill runs through you. The idea is terrifying. It would mean that no one else has ever existed. Every conversation, every word of love, every argument, every shared moment, all just reflections bouncing back at you. But another thought surfaces, pushing against the fear. If this is true, then what does it mean about you? Are you a creator? A god of your own universe, shaping the world around you? Have you built everything you have ever known with nothing but your own mind? You look at your hands, turning them over, tracing the lines on your palms. If this is your reality, does it mean you have control over it? Could you change it? Could you will yourself into a different life? You close your eyes and imagine, what if, in this very moment, you decided to walk into a new world, a different city, a different time, a different version of yourself? Would it appear before you? The philosopher's voice returns, steady, patient. Then, test it. Change the world. If you are its creator, shape it. If it bends to your will, then you have your answer. And if it does not, then perhaps you are still a prisoner to something greater. You open your eyes. The city remains the same. The people still walk by, lost in their own lives. The streetlights flicker. The night air brushes against your skin. Everything remains. But the thought persists. If you are the only mind in existence, then why does the world continue when you close your eyes? Perhaps that is the greatest mystery of all. If everything exists only because you perceive it, then why does it remain so consistent? Why do things happen that you do not expect? If you are the center of reality, then why does pain feel real? Why does loss leave scars? The philosopher had offered no answers, only questions. And maybe that is the point. Solipsism does not give you certainty, it strips it away. It forces you to stare into the void, into the uncertainty of your own existence, and ask, if nothing is real, then what am I? You stand still, listening to the distant hum of life around you. Somewhere, a car door slams. Somewhere, laughter echoes. Somewhere, the wind rustles through the trees. For a moment, the world feels fragile, like a thin veil stretched over something deeper, something you cannot yet see. You take a breath, steady yourself. If solipsism is true, then you are alone in this vast, infinite illusion. But if it is false, if the world is real, if others do exist, then you are still just as alone, only now surrounded by people who can never truly enter your mind. Either way, the solitude remains. The city moves on, unaware of the questions unraveling inside you. And you wonder if you are the only mind that exists, then what happens when you fall asleep? The night deepens and the city breathes around you. Neon lights flicker in the distance, their glow bouncing off wet pavement. The streets are quieter now, the hum of life reduced to a gentle murmur. Yet the question lingers in your mind, like a whisper in the dark: what happens when you close your eyes? If reality exists only because you perceive it, then what becomes of the world when you drift into sleep? Do the streets vanish? Do the people disappear, waiting in suspended animation for your consciousness to return? Or does the world continue without you, proving that it was never yours to begin with? You hesitate, the thought unsettling. If the world ceases to exist when you sleep, then what happens when you wake up? Are you returning to the same world? Or is it a perfect replica, crafted anew each morning? Every sunrise, every face, every familiar voice, do they exist beyond your awareness? Or do they emerge the moment you call them into being? You remember a story of an old philosopher who, after waking from a vivid dream, sat in deep contemplation. In the dream, he had been a butterfly, fluttering freely in the breeze, unburdened by thought. The dream had felt real as life itself. And so, when he awoke, a troubling question arose. Was he a man who had just dreamt he was a butterfly? Or was he a butterfly, now dreaming he was a man? The uncertainty consumed him. How could he be sure that waking life was any more real than the dream? How could anyone? You exhale, trying to shake the unease creeping into your thoughts. You glance at the people walking past, their expressions distant, their movements mechanical. Are they real? Do they have lives of their own? Or are they like characters in a story, appearing only when the protagonist arrives? What if this entire world is merely a stage, set for your experience alone? You recall another Talithes one, of a prisoner trapped in an underground cave since birth. He has never seen the outside world, only the shadows cast upon the cave wall by the flickering fire behind him. These shadows are all he knows, and so, to him, they are reality. But one day, he is freed, dragged into the light of the real world. The sun blinds him, the colors overwhelm him, and he realizes with horror that everything he once believed was real was nothing more than distorted echoes of something greater. What if you too are staring at shadows? You close your eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of the idea settle over you. If solipsism is true, if the external world cannot be known beyond your own mind, then who or what is responsible for crafting this elaborate illusion? A voice surfaces from the depths of your memory, the philosopher's words spoken in the stillness of that dimly lit library. If the world is your mind's creation, then what does that make you? Your thoughts race. If solipsism is true, then are you simply a mind adrift in nothingness, piecing together a reality from fragments of thought, or are you something more? You recall the ancient idea of Brahmana concept from Eastern philosophy that suggests all of existence is a single consciousness, fractured into infinite perspectives. If this is true, then perhaps solipsism is not the idea that you are alone in the universe. Rather, it is the idea that you are the universe itself, experiencing itself through the lens of an individual mind. But then, another thought emerges, darker and more unsettling. What if your mind is not the creator of reality, but its prisoner? What if the world is not an illusion you have crafted, but a dream you have been trapped in? A long-forgotten thought stirs within you something you once read, perhaps. The idea that life itself may be no different from a simulation, a grand illusion built to keep you unaware of the truth. The philosopher Nick Bostrom once proposed a hypothesis that if advanced civilizations had the ability to create simulated worlds, then it is statistically more likely that we are living in one of those simulations than in the original reality. If this were true, then solipsism would not be the realization that you are the only mind in existence. It would be the realization that you are the only mind trapped inside a manufactured dream. A chill runs through you. The thought is dizzying. You take a step forward, forcing yourself to breathe. The city remains, unmoved by your thoughts. The lights still shine. The air still hums with distant voices. If this is an illusion, it is a convincing one. But perhaps that is the final lesson of solipsism, not that the world is false, but that certainty itself is an illusion. Maybe the truth is unknowable. Maybe existence itself is a paradox, an endless spiral of questions with no final answer. You look up at the night sky. The stars blink in the distance, scattered across the infinite blackness. For centuries, humans have looked at these same stars, wondering what lies beyond. But maybe the real mystery was never out there. Maybe it was always within. A realization settles over you, quiet, gentle, unshakable. It does not matter if the world is real or imagined. It does not matter if others exist, or if you are alone in a sea of reflections. What matters is what you do with the experience you have. Because whether real or not, this is the only existence you will ever know. And so, the question is not what is real. The question is, what will you choose to believe? The city moves on, the night stretches deeper, and somewhere in the vastness of your mind, another thought begins to form. But for now, you let it rest. For now, you are simply here. And perhaps that is enough. Aestheticism. Imagine walking through a grand gallery, a space where time itself seems to pause. The air carries a quiet stillness, the scent of aged canvas and polished wood lingering in the atmosphere. Gilded frames enclose masterpieces that have endured the centuries, portraits that whisper forgotten stories, landscapes that seem to stretch beyond their borders. As you move past each artwork, a strange thought arises. What if beauty was not just a fleeting pleasure? What if it was the highest pursuit, the truest expression of human existence? In this moment, you are stepping into the world of aestheticism, a philosophy that sees beauty not as a means to an end, but as the end itself. Here, art is not created to teach morality or serve a greater function. It exists for its own sake, as something to be experienced, to be felt, without justification. You pause before a painting that captures the golden glow of twilight over a tranquil sea. The brushstrokes seem to dance as if they carry the heartbeat of the artist who once stood before this canvas, lost in a world of color and form. A question stirs in your mind. Is this enough? Is beauty alone enough to justify existence? You pause before a painting that captures the golden glow of twilight over a tranquil sea. The brushstrokes seem to dance as if they carry the heartbeat of the artist who once stood before this canvas, lost in a world of color and form. A question stirs in your mind. Is this enough? Is beauty alone enough to justify existence? A voice, gentle yet deliberate, breaks the silence. You turn, and there stands a man dressed in dark, flowing attire. His eyes carry a spark of something undefinable, passion, rebellion, or perhaps an unshakable belief in something greater than the world itself. You hesitate, he muses, gesturing toward the painting. Perhaps you are wondering if beauty has any meaning beyond itself. He steps closer, studying the artwork as if peering into its soul. Art needs no reason to exist, he continues. Like the petals of a rose, the glow of the moon, or the laughter of a child, it simply is. To seek meaning beyond beauty is to miss the point entirely. You recognize the man now, Oscar Wilde. The name alone carries an air of defiance, of a life devoted to the pursuit of art in its purest form. He was among the greatest champions of aestheticism, an advocate of the belief that life itself should be a work of art. He walks with you through the gallery, his voice a steady rhythm against the silence. Aestheticism is the rejection of practicality, he says. It is the declaration that art need not be useful, that beauty does not have to serve a purpose. You glance around, taking in the lavish details of the sculptures and paintings surrounding you. The idea feels strange, almost radical. So much of life is spent seeking purpose, meaning a reason for everything. To simply exist for beauty's sake, is that not indulgence? Wilde smiles as if reading your thoughts. They called it indulgence too, he says. They called it decadence, selfishness. But tell me, why must everything be useful? Does the sunset serve a purpose? Do the stars? Must everything be bound to logic, to morality, to necessity? His words linger in the air, challenging everything you have been taught. Aestheticism is not about logic. It is about experience. It is about the feeling of beauty, untamed and unburdened by expectation. He gestures toward another paintinga, striking portrait of a young man, his gaze locked in an eternal stare. You recognize it at once, the picture of Dorian Gray, Wilde's most infamous creation. A life devoted to beauty, he murmurs, studying the painting. But at what cost? You remember the story Dorian Gray, a man so captivated by his own beauty that he wished never to age. His portrait, rather than his own body, would bear the burden of time and corruption. While he remained forever youthful, the painting decayed, reflecting the darkness hidden beneath his perfect exterior. It was a tale of obsession, of the dangers of worshipping beauty without restraint. And yet, Wilde's message was not a condemnation, it was a warning. Aestheticism is a path of pure freedom, but like all freedoms, it must be wielded wisely. Wilde turns to you, his expression unreadable. You hesitate still, he says. But tell me, have you ever stood before a masterpiece and felt something beyond words? A shiver down your spine? A moment where the world fell away and only the art remained? You nod, remembering a time, a place, a moment when beauty had held you in its grasp, rendering everything else insignificant. That, Wilde says, is the only truth aestheticism requires. Not logic, not morality, just that feeling. His words settle in your mind like ripples on still water. You follow him through the gallery, past endless visions of color and light, form and shadow. The deeper you go, the more the world outside fades. For a moment, there is nothing but art, nothing but beauty. And for the first time you begin to understand why some would choose to dedicate their lives to this alone. The gallery stretches before you like an endless dream, each painting and sculpture a silent voice from another time. Oscar Wilde walks beside you, his presence both inviting and elusive, like an artist who belongs to no single era but exists in all. The glow of candlelight flickers on his face as he continues speaking, his words flowing effortlessly, like poetry woven into the air. Aestheticism is more than art, he muses, his hands trailing over the frame of a Renaissance masterpiece. It is the shaping of life itself into something beautiful. To live aesthetically is to make every act, every word, every choice a deliberate stroke on the canvas of existence. You pause, taking in the painting before you, a woman wrapped in flowing silk, her expression neither joyful nor sorrowful, but suspended in a moment of pure presence. There is something ethereal about her, something untouched by the weight of the world. You wonder, Is this what it means to live for beauty? To exist in a state of unburdened grace? Wilde senses your thoughts and steps closer. There is a great misconception, he says. They believe aestheticism means excess, that it is a life of indulgence and hedonism. But true aestheticism is not indulgence, it is refinement. It is the pursuit of the finest moments, the crafting of existence into something deliberate rather than something accidental. His voice softens, becoming almost wistful. Take, for instance, the great aesthetes of history. They did not drown in luxury, nor did they lose themselves in meaningless pleasures. They curated their lives, selecting only what was truly worthy of their attention. You think of figures like John Ruskin, the critic and thinker who saw beauty as a moral force, who believed that true art must elevate the soul, or Walter Pater, who spoke of burning with a hard, gem-like flame, living each moment as though it were a work of art in itself. Wilde moves on, his steps slow and thoughtful. And yet, he says, beauty alone is not enough, is it? He glances at you, searching for something in your eyes. We must ask, is art only an escape, or is it a truth in itself? The question lingers in the still air. The idea of beauty as truth is ancient, stretching back to Plato, who saw the world of forms of ideal beauty as something beyond the physical realm. But not all thinkers agreed. The Romantics, for instance, believed beauty to be tied to passion, to experience, to the soul's longing, rather than an absolute, untouchable ideal. You step toward another painting, a stormy seascape, waves crashing against jagged cliffs beneath a sky heavy with turmoil. It is beautiful, but not in the delicate, serene way of the portraits and sculptures surrounding it. It is beauty that carries destruction, that embraces the raw force of nature. Wilde watches you, a knowing smile on his lips. You see, there are different kinds of beauty, he says. The beauty of harmony, of symmetry, of delicate refinement, and then there is the beauty of chaos, of the uncontrolled, the sublime. Tell me, which do you find more intoxicating? You hesitate. The tranquil beauty of a still lake, or the breathtaking terror of a raging storm? There is something alive in both, something that pulls at the depths of the human spirit. That, Wilde continues, is why aestheticism is so misunderstood. People think beauty must always be soft, gentle, pleasing. But beauty can also be terrible. It can unravel you. It can make you question everything you once believed. He turns away from the painting and gestures for you to follow. You weave through the gallery together, moving through world's portraits of gods and kings, sketches of dancers frozen in motion, sculptures of figures lost in eternal longing. There is a danger, Wilde admits, his voice quieter now. Aestheticism, like all great things, can consume those who do not understand it. To live only for beauty, without care for truth or goodness, is to risk losing oneself. You think again of Dorian Gray, of the price he paid for worshipping his own perfection. But Wilde shakes his head before you can speak. No, he says. It was not beauty that destroyed him. It was vanity. It was his refusal to see that art, like life, must contain both light and shadow. You glance around, realizing that many of the most captivating works in the gallery are not of idealized perfection, but of flawed humanities that hold sorrow, hands that tremble with longing, faces that whisper untold stories. To be an aesthete, Wilde says, is not to reject reality, but to elevate it, to make every meal, every conversation, every passing moment something intentional, not to drown in decadence, but to appreciate the artistry of existence itself. He pauses before a mirror, the ornate silver frame catching the dim light. Look into it, he urges. What do you see? You step forward and face your reflection. You see yourself unchanged, and yet something has changed. The way you stand, the way you observe, the way you exist in this moment. Aestheticism is not about making life extravagant, Wilde murmurs. It is about making it meaningful, about recognizing that life itself is a masterpiece and that you are both the artist and the canvas. His words settle in your mind like a whispered secret. You step away from the mirror, your thoughts heavy with questions and revelations alike. The gallery is endless, stretching into the unknown, filled with untold wonders waiting to be discovered. And for the first time you begin to wonder, if life is art, then how will you choose to create it? The gallery seems to stretch beyond time itself, endless corridors adorned with art that whispers stories from across centuries. Wilde walks beside you, silent for a moment, letting the weight of his words settle. He watches as your eyes drift across the pieces, some grand and gilded, others raw and unrefined. They all breathe in their own way, telling tales of longing, triumph, sorrow, and fleeting moments of beauty. Let me ask you something. Wilde finally speaks, his voice softer now, as if he is inviting you into a secret. If a painting is hidden away in a dark room where no one can see it, does it still hold beauty? Does a poem never read still possess meaning? Or is beauty something that requires an audience? The question lingers, drifting between you like a candle flickering in the dark. You consider it. Is art only meaningful if it is witnessed? Or does beauty exist for its own sake, independent of admiration? Wilde smiles knowingly, as if he already knows the war of thoughts unfolding in your mind. This is where many misunderstand aestheticism. They think it is about performance, about external validation. They believe the aesthete lives for the gaze of others, but that is where they are wrong. He turns to face you fully, his expression suddenly serious. To be a true aesthete is not to seek admiration, but to be immersed in beauty, to be transformed by it. To live as though every moment, every thought, every breath is a carefully painted stroke on the canvas of existence. You walk further down the corridor, pausing in front of a sculpture. It is unfinished, the shape of a figure emerging from a block of marble, frozen in the process of becoming. You feel an unexpected pull toward it, drawn by its incompleteness. Ah, Wilde nods toward it. Michelangelo once said that the sculpture is already inside the stone. The artist merely removes the excess. You step closer, running your fingers along the rough edges of the unfinished figure. The weight of his words presses against your thoughts. Is this what aestheticism truly is? The slow, deliberate act of carving oneself into something beautiful? Wilde leans in slightly. You see, the aesthete does not simply appreciate art. The true aesthete becomes art. Life itself is a creation, and each day is a chance to sculpt it with precision and care. The thought is intoxicating. Not merely to admire beauty from a distance, but to be an active participant in its creation, to live as though you yourself were a masterpiece in progress. Yet, just as the idea begins to take root, another question emerges in your mind. What of suffering? What of imperfection? If aestheticism seeks to elevate life into something refined and deliberate, where does that leave the flaws, the tragedies, the shadows? Wilde seems to sense your hesitation. You are thinking of pain, he says, of the ugly moments, the ones that seem to have no place in a beautiful life. You nod. But let me ask you this, he continues, stepping toward a painting nearby. It is not a delicate, harmonious work of soft colors and careful brushstrokes. It is bold, chaotic even. A storm at sea, waves crashing, the sky streaked with fury, and yet it is breathtaking. Tell me, Wilde says, is this not also beauty? You stare at the painting, its energy almost overwhelming. It is not serene, it does not offer comfort. And yet, there is something in its rawness, in its intensity, that moves you just as deeply as the portraits of poised, graceful figures. Life is not meant to be untouched perfection, Wilde explains. Even the greatest artists knew that. The cracks, the turmoil, the struggles, these do not ruin beauty. They create it. Your mind drifts to the philosophy of wabi-sabi, the Japanese aesthetic that finds beauty in imperfection, in the passage of time, in the worn and the broken. Could it be that aestheticism is not about avoiding pain, but about seeing it differently? Wilde watches as you absorb the thought, then gestures toward another artwork, a golden bowl, its cracks filled with delicate veins of gold. Kintsugi, the ancient Japanese art of repairing broken pottery, not by hiding the damage but by illuminating it. You see, he says, true beauty does not demand flawlessness. It embraces transformation. The weight of the realization settles in your chest. Aestheticism is not about escaping life's imperfections. It is about recognizing them, shaping them, elevating them into something meaningful. Wilde sighs, as if relieved that you have begun to understand. Too many think aestheticism is about surface. They mistake it for vanity. But in truth, it is about awareness. It is about seeing the world with sharper eyes, about being awake to the poetry woven into even the most mundane moments. He steps toward the gallery's exit, his silhouette blending into the dim candlelight. You follow, your mind still alive with new thoughts, new questions. As you step outside, the cool night air greets you. The stars above are scattered like flecks of paint on an infinite canvas. The city hums softly, every window a frame holding its own small masterpiece. Wilde turns to you one last time. You are an artist, he says simply. Whether you paint or write or sculpt, whether you create with your hands or simply with the way you live, you are an artist. Every moment is a choice, a brushstroke, a note in a melody. The only question is, what will you create? He walks away, disappearing into the night, leaving you with only the echo of his words. You stand still for a moment, watching the world unfold around you. A couple laughing in the distance, a street musician playing a quiet melody, a flickering lantern in a window. It is all art, it is all beauty, and now you see it. You take a deep breath and step forward into the masterpiece that is your own life. Nihilism. The wind howls through the empty streets, carrying with it a chill that seems to seep into the bones of the city itself. Streetlights flicker, casting long, trembling shadows against the walls of forgotten buildings. Somewhere in the distance, a clock tower strikes midnight, its echoes swallowed by the void of the night. You find yourself standing at the edge of an abandoned square where time itself feels uncertain. A single figure stands beneath a dim street lamp, motionless, as if contemplating something beyond sight. You step closer, and the figure turns. His face is pale, hollowed by thought, his eyes sharp yet distant. You recognize him, though you have never met him before, Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who declared, "God is dead." He does not speak at first, only watches you, as if measuring the weight of your existence before deciding whether you are ready to understand the void that stretches before you. "Tell me," he finally says, his voice like the whisper of a storm. "Have you ever felt the weight of meaninglessness pressing upon your chest? Have you ever looked into the vastness of the universe and wondered if anything you do truly matters?" The question lingers in the cold air, dissolving into silence. You do not answer right away, because you are not sure if you have an answer at all. That feeling, he continues, is nihilism. The recognition that there is no inherent meaning in the universe, no divine plan, no grand purpose, only the void. He gestures around him, as if inviting you to observe the empty square, the crumbling statues, the neglected buildings. You see, the world was once filled with certainty. Religion, morality, tradition, they gave people something to cling to, a reason to wake up in the morning, to suffer, to strive. But what happens when those illusions are shattered? When you realize that the gods are silent and that the universe is indifferent to your existence? You feel the chill tighten around you. It is a thought you have perhaps encountered before, in fleeting moments staring at the night sky, feeling the smallness of your own being against the enormity of existence. But now, spoken aloud, it feels heavier, inescapable. Nietzsche begins to walk, and you follow, drawn into the labyrinth of his mind. Many fear nihilism, believing it leads only to despair. To a world where nothing matters, where morality crumbles, where life becomes a slow, meaningless march toward death. And perhaps they are right. He stops, turning to you. But tell me, what if this is not a curse, but a liberation? A flicker of something stirs in you a question, a curiosity. You had not expected nihilism to be spoken of as anything but bleak, but there is something in Nietzsche's voice that suggests otherwise. He continues, "If the universe has no inherent meaning, then we are free to create our own. If there are no gods dictating our fate, then we are the authors of our own existence. Do you see? Nihilism does not have to be the abyss. It can be the foundation upon which we build something new. You pass a broken statue of a forgotten king, his face weathered away by time. Look at him, Nietzsche says. Once he believed himself eternal, his name carved into stone, his rule divine. And yet, here he is, forgotten, dust. Time swallows all things." He smirks slightly. "The same will happen to you, to me, to everything you have ever loved. But rather than despair, we must ask, what will we do with the time we have?" His words settle deep within you. The idea is terrifying, but also strangely empowering. Without predetermined purpose, without cosmic significance, life is yours to shape. Every action, every thought, every fleeting moment, it is all yours, unbound by external dictates. Nietzsche steps forward, deeper into the city of shadows, and you follow, unsure whether you are stepping into darkness or light. The wind shifts, carrying the scent of rain, though the sky remains empty. Nietzsche strides ahead, his coat billowing like a phantom against the quiet desolation. The echoes of your footsteps follow you both, a rhythmic reminder of time pressing forward, indifferent to your presence. He stops at the base of a crumbling monument, a once proud obelisk now fractured and defaced. "This," he says, running his fingers along the rough stone, "was built by men who believed in permanence, who believed that meaning could be chiseled into rock and stand against eternity." His gaze turns back to you. "But tell me, how many names from history have truly endured? How many empires? How many kings? They all believed they would last forever. And yet, time renders them myths, or worse, forgotten." His words pull at something deep within you, the fragile hope that legacy might provide meaning, that perhaps your actions could outlive you. But Nietzsche is unrelenting. "You see," he continues, "there are those who, upon realizing the void, fall into despair. They see the absence of divine purpose, the futility of tradition, and they collapse. They call nihilism a sickness, a disease that drains life of all its color. And in a way, it does. It strips away illusions, leaving behind only what is real, and reality is terrifying." You watch as he gestures toward the empty street ahead, devoid of any guiding signs. Most people will do anything to avoid this reality. They will seek comfort in falsehoods, in ideologies that promise order. They will cling to religion, nationalism, even the illusion of progress, desperate to believe that their lives have objective meaning. But do you see the danger in that? You hesitate, and he answers before you can speak. They give their power away. They allow something else, be it gods, governments, or traditions, to dictate the meaning of their existence. And that, my friend, is a form of slavery. The word lingers, sharp in the stillness. You had never considered it that way. The structures of belief, the narratives people construct to explain their place in the world, are they protections, or are they chains? But you, Nietzsche's voice softens, you have glimpsed the void, and that means you have a choice. He steps closer, his eyes burning with a conviction that is neither despairing nor hopeful, but something defiant, something defiant. You can either reject nihilism and try to bury yourself in comforting lies, or You can embrace it. You can create your own meaning. His words strike something in you, a realization that you are standing at the edge of something vast and unknowable. If meaning is not inherent, then you are the one who must will it into existence. And if that is true, then the power you once sought from the universe has always been inside you. Nietzsche turns, and his voice carries the weight of centuries. There is a concept you must understand, the Übermensch, the overman, the one who transcends nihilism, who does not collapse under the absence of meaning, but instead forges his own path. He is not bound by morality dictated by others. He does not seek external validation. He creates his own values, his own purpose. He looks at you now, measuring, as though wondering whether you could be such a person. The weak seek comfort in gods and ideologies, he says, but the strong carve their own destiny. For a moment, silence stretches between you. The idea is exhilarating, yet daunting. Could you truly bear the weight of defining your own existence? Could you step beyond the need for validation, for guidance, for the security of absolutes? Nietzsche sighs and turns back to the monument, running his fingers over its cracks. The truth is, few will ever have the strength to do so. Most will return to their comfortable illusions. But those who dare to face the void, to stare into the abyss without blinking, they will become something greater. He looks back at you one final time. Will you? You feel the question settle within you, not just as an idea, but as a challenge. The air is thick with possibility, and the choice is yours. The city stretches out before you, endless and silent. Nietzsche walks beside you, his presence heavy with unspoken thoughts. The air carries a quiet stillness, as if the universe itself is listening. You see, he finally says, most people live as though they are part of a great story, written long before they were born. They imagine a grand design, a fate already determined, where they are characters fulfilling a role. But in truth there is no script. There is no guiding author. His voice is calm, but firm, and that terrifies them. You nod, understanding now what he means. The realization that nothing is planned, that no cosmic force is guiding your steps, it is both liberating and overwhelming. If there is no inherent purpose, then everything is open. Every decision, every action is yours to define. But that also means there is no safety net, no higher being watching over you, no destiny ensuring that you arrive where you are supposed to be. Nietzsche stops and turns to you. This is the abyss, he says, gesturing at the empty space between the towering ruins around you. For most, the absence of meaning is unbearable. When people realize the world does not offer them purpose, they panic. They fall into despair. They seek something to cling to, a belief, a leader, a tradition, a cause. His expression darkens slightly. This is how weak men become slaves to ideas not their own. You let his words settle. How often do people give themselves to ideologies simply because they fear emptiness? How often do they let others define meaning for them? He sighs. For most, the absence of meaning is unbearable. When people realize the world does not offer them purpose, they panic. They fall into despair. They seek something to cling to, a belief, a leader, a tradition, a cause. His expression darkened slightly. This is how weak men become slaves to ideas not their own. You let his words settle. How often do people give themselves to ideologies simply because they fear emptiness? How often do they let others define meaning for them? He sighs. But you must understand, nihilism is not the end of the road. It is only the beginning. You look at him, waiting. Once you let go of the need for external meaning, you realize something incredible. He turns and begins walking again, his steps deliberate. You are free. The word lingers, echoing against the cold stone walls. Free, you ask? Yes, he says simply. Free to create your own purpose, free to define your own values, free to shape your own path. You think about this. The idea is difficult, but it also feels powerful. The overman, Nietzsche continues, is not bound by the morality of the past. He does not need gods or doctrines to tell him what is right. He is the creator of his own values. He does not seek approval. He does not ask for permission. His eyes burn with conviction. He does. The words strike deep. If there is no meaning given to you, then you are the one who must will it into existence. Nietzsche continues. Some will say that without external morality, people will fall into chaos. That without a divine law, there can be no good or evil. He smirks. And perhaps that is true for those who cannot think for themselves. But the overman, he does not need commandments. He does not need laws to tell him what is just. He understands that true strength comes not from blind obedience, but from conscious choice. You breathe deeply, feeling the weight of his words. He pauses, looking up at the dark sky. The question, then, is simple, he says. Do you have the strength to create your own meaning? To step beyond the old ways and become something more? The silence around you is vast. You feel the depth of the question, its implications reaching into every corner of your mind, and yet, somewhere inside, there is something else, a spark, a realization. This is not a burden, this is power, to decide your own purpose, to shape your own beliefs, to live not because you were told how to, but because you choose to. Nietzsche watches you closely. Few can embrace this fully, he says. Most will return to old comforts, to beliefs that tell them who they are and what they should do. But if you wish to transcend, if you wish to truly live, you must take responsibility for your own existence. His voice lowers, nearly a whisper. No one else will do it for you. The city seems different now. The shadows are the same, the silence unchanged. But the weight of the moment has shifted. It is no longer about despair. It is about possibility. Nietzsche turns, beginning to walk away. The abyss will always be there, he says over his shoulder. But you no longer need to fear it. You stand still, feeling something within you settle. The world has not changed, but you have, and that is enough. Determinism. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast ocean, waves rolling in with a steady rhythm, each crest and fall seemingly inevitable. You watch the tide, and it occurs to you, could this be the nature of existence itself? A sequence of movements, predetermined, following a course dictated long before you arrived at this shore? What if every choice you have ever made, every thought that has crossed your mind, was already set in motion, like these waves that crash against the shore? You step back, looking at the world around you. Every tree, every gust of wind, every grain of sand beneath your feet has followed a path dictated by forces beyond its control. And then you ask the question that has haunted thinkers for centuries: do you have free will, or are you merely another part of this grand cosmic machinery, acting out a script written long before you drew your first breath? This is the essence of determinism, the idea that all events, including human actions, are the necessary results of preceding causes. That every decision you make is not truly yours, but a product of forces you cannot escape. The world, in this view, is not a place of endless possibilities, but of inevitable outcomes, a tightly woven web of cause and effect stretching infinitely in both directions. The roots of this idea stretch deep into history. Ancient philosophers in both the East and the West wrestled with the notion of fate, destiny, and causality. In Greece, the Stoics saw the universe as governed by a divine order logos, an unbreakable logic that determined the movement of stars, the course of nations, and even the choices of men. To them, acceptance of fate was the key to wisdom. For to fight against the inevitable was to battle against nature itself. Half a world away, ancient Hindu and Buddhist traditions explored karma, the idea that past actions inevitably shape future outcomes, binding every soul in an intricate dance of cause and consequence. One's destiny was not random, but sculpted by an unseen web of previous deeds, stretching far beyond a single lifetime. But determinism is not merely an ancient belief. It survived and evolved, taking new forms with each age. As science progressed, so too did our understanding of the chains that bind us. Newton, in describing the universe as a great machine governed by precise laws of motion, unknowingly reinforced the deterministic view. If every action had an equal and opposite reaction, then was human choice simply another reaction in an unbroken sequence of forces stretching back to the birth of time itself? Consider this. If you could freeze the universe in a single moment, knowing the position and momentum of every particle, could you predict the future? If every atom follows a law, and every action leads to an unavoidable reaction, then could a being of infinite knowledge foresee everything? This was the vision of Pierre-Simon Laplace, an 18th-century French mathematician, who imagined an entity sometimes called Laplace's demon who, given the knowledge of every particle in the universe at a single instant, could predict the entire future. To Laplace, the universe was a grand equation, and humans, no different from planets or comets, were variables in this celestial formula, acting out their roles with no possibility of deviation. And yet, despite this staggering vision of predestination, something inside you resists. If all is determined, if every choice was already set in motion before you were born, then what does it mean to live, to strive, to love? If free will is an illusion, then do our choices have meaning at all? You find yourself caught between two worlds, the desire to believe in the power of choice and the crushing weight of an unbreakable chain of causality. But before despair creeps in, you remember this question has troubled the greatest minds of history, and perhaps in their reflections there is an answer. You walk through the quiet streets of an ancient city, where philosophers once debated under the colonnades, their voices rising and falling like waves against stone walls. You can almost hear their arguments echoing through time, voices from centuries past, still locked in conversation. At the heart of their discussions lies a single unshakable question: are we free, or are we bound by forces beyond our control? The idea of determinism has taken many shapes, shifting with the evolution of human thought. In the ancient world, the Stoics embraced it as a path to peace. They believed the universe followed a strict cosmic order, an unchanging logic that governed all things. To them, resisting fate was like resisting the turning of the season was not only foolish, but unnatural. What happens, happens because it must, they would say. And so, the wise man does not fight against the inevitable, but learns to align himself with the flow of events, like a leaf carried by the river. Centuries later, another figure stepped into this eternal debate. Baruch Spinoza, a philosopher of the 17th century, looked at the universe and saw it not as a chaotic battlefield of free choices, but as a vast interconnected system where everything, every thought, every emotion, every action was a result of something that came before. To Spinoza, free will was an illusion. You did not choose to desire something. Your desire was merely a consequence of prior causes, like dominoes falling in an endless sequence. The universe, in his eyes, was like a clock, its gears turning with perfect precision, each part influencing the next, leaving no space for randomness. You pause in the street, feeling the weight of this idea pressing on your mind. If Spinoza was right, then even your moment of reflection right now, this very thought was not truly yours, but merely the latest link in an unbroken chain that stretches back to the birth of the cosmos. And yet, despite this rigid vision of a predetermined world, Spinoza did not despair. Instead, he found freedom in understanding. To him, the more we comprehend the causes that shape us, the more power we have over them. The more we accept that we are part of something larger, the more at peace we become. It is not about breaking free from the chain, but about recognizing that we are the chain, interwoven with the universe itself. The same idea surfaced in a different form with Karl Marx, who took determinism and applied it to history itself. To Marx, societies were not shaped by the free choices of individuals, but by deeper economic forces. Every empire that rose, every war that was fought, every revolution that shook the world, it was all, in his view, inevitable. History was a river with a fixed destination, not a series of random events. The worker and the king, the rebel and the ruler, they were all merely playing their roles in a script dictated by economics and power. You consider this for a moment. If history itself is determined, does that mean the great movements of time, the wars, the revolutions, the rise and fall of civilizations were always meant to happen? Did individuals ever have control, or were they simply swept along by forces larger than themselves? You think of another perspective, one born not from philosophy, but from science itself. The rise of quantum mechanics in the 20th century shattered the classical deterministic worldview that Newton and Laplace had envisioned. Where once the universe was thought to be a giant clock, predictable in its every motion, now physicists saw uncertainty at its core. Particles behaved randomly, their paths unknowable. Could it be, then, that at the deepest level of reality, there was freedom after all? The question lingers in your mind. Perhaps determinism is not an absolute law, but a spectrum. Some things in life are fixed, governed by cause and effect, while others remain open, uncertain, waiting for choice to shape them. As you continue walking, the night sky stretches above you, vast and silent. The stars, billions of years old, still burn as they were destined to. The rivers still carve their way through valleys, their paths set long before you were born. And yet, within this great cosmic design, you feel something stirring, the possibility that even if all is determined, your experience of it is still uniquely yours. The wind moves through the trees, carrying the echoes of ancient debates, whispering a question that has no final answer. Are we free or are we bound? The night does not say. You walk further, your footsteps echoing softly against the ancient stone beneath you. The night is still, yet the air is alive with the whispers of all those who have pondered this question before you. The idea of determinism stretches far beyond philosophy and science. It weaves itself into culture, religion, and even the way people choose to live their lives. In the East, long before the Stoics, before Spinoza, before the rise of modern science, the Hindus and Buddhists had already embraced a view of life that echoed the ideas of determinism. In the vast philosophical landscape of Hinduism, the concept of karma dictated that every action had a consequence, one that was inescapable. To them, the world was not chaotic, nor was it random every joy. Every suffering, every twist of fate was simply a continuation of past choices, perhaps not in this life, but in a life before. Karma was not a mystical force, nor was it a judgment passed by gods. It was merely a law, as precise and unyielding as gravity. Just as a seed planted today would grow into a tree tomorrow, one's past actions inevitably shaped the future. There was no room for accidents. Everything unfolded as it was meant to. Yet within this seemingly rigid system there was still room for change. The path may be set, but how one walks, it is up to them. A man might be born into hardship, his suffering predetermined by past deeds. But how he responds to that suffering is his own choice. If he meets it with anger, with resentment, he weaves a future of more suffering. If he meets it with wisdom, with kindness, he sets into motion a new course zone that may lead to liberation. Buddhism, too, embraced the idea that our lives are shaped by causes outside of our immediate control. Yet, it did not resign itself to fate. Instead, it offered a way to step outside of the cycle. To the Buddha, suffering was inevitable, but it was not random. It was the product of craving, attachment, and illusion, things that bound the mind and created suffering. But if one could let go, if one could see beyond the illusion of control, they could find peace. You pause at a quiet temple courtyard, lanterns flickering gently in the wind. A monk sweeps the ground, each motion precise, effortless, as though he has done this 1,000 times before. Perhaps he has. His life, like yours, is a series of moments shaped by all that came before it. And yet he is at peace. The thought lingers in your mind as you step away, back into the world beyond the temple gates. What does it mean to accept determinism? Is it to surrender? To simply let life move as it will, without resistance? Or is it to embrace the understanding that, while we may not control the grand design, we still play a role in it? Modern psychology has its own perspective on this question. Neuroscientists have discovered that the brain makes decisions before we are even aware of them. In studies measuring brain activity, researchers found that a person's choice could be predicted seconds before they were conscious of making it. Does this mean free will is an illusion? That every thought, every decision, every impulse is merely the product of chemical reactions, of neurons firing in patterns dictated by past experiences? And yet, something within you resists this idea. Even if the past has shaped your thoughts, even if your choices are bound by invisible chains of cause and effect, you still feel as though you are choosing. Perhaps then the question is not whether determinism is real, it is whether believing in it changes anything. If the universe is a vast, unchangeable machine, does it matter if you know this? Or does life still feel the same, with its joys, its pains, its quiet moments of wonder? You stop beneath an old tree, its roots deep in the earth, its branches stretching toward the stars. This tree did not choose where it was planted. It did not choose the wind that shaped it, the storms that battered it, the sun that nourished it. And yet, it grows. It stands, tall and strong, bending when it must, but never breaking. Perhaps we are not so different. Perhaps determinism is not a prison, but a foundation. Not a force that binds us, but one that shapes us. And within that shaping, within the understanding that all things are connected, that every moment is the child of the past and the parent of the future, there is a kind of freedom. A freedom not to control, but to accept. A freedom not to resist, but to move with the flow of life. You take a deep breath, the cool night air filling your lungs. The past has brought you here, to this moment. But what you do next, that is still your own. You step forward. Dualism. You stand at the edge of a still lake, watching the reflection of the sky ripple upon its surface. The air is crisp, the scent of damp earth rising as the sun sets behind distant hills. The world before you is divided above, the vast sky. Below, its mirror image, indistinct yet eerily familiar. Two realms, one tangible, the other an illusion, yet bound together in perfect symmetry. For centuries, philosophers have pondered the nature of reality, seeking to understand the invisible forces that shape existence. What is the true nature of the world? Is it purely physical, made up of atoms, forces, and mechanisms beyond our control? Or is there something else, something intangible, something that cannot be weighed or measured, yet defines our very being? This question, one of the oldest in philosophy, lies at the heart of dualism. Imagine for a moment that you awaken in a world where everything is perfectly symmetrical. Every thought you have exists twice. Every object has an unseen counterpart. Every experience unfolds in parallel. But while one world is visible, the other is unseen, just out of reach. Which one is real? Which one truly defines you? This is the dilemma posed by Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher who believed that beyond the material world, there exists another realm of perfect forms. To him, the world we see is merely a shadow, an imitation of something more real, more profound. A chair, a tree, a river, these are not the truest forms of their existence. They are reflections, temporary and imperfect, of their ideal counterparts that exist in the realm of pure thought. In this way, Plato argued, the material world is but a fleeting echo, while the world of ideas, the realm of the mind, is the true foundation of reality. Centuries later, the philosopher René Descartes would take this idea further, dividing existence into two distinct substances, the physical and the mental. To Descartes, the human body was a machine, bound by the laws of nature, incapable of thought or will. But the mind, that mysterious, invisible force, was something else entirely. It was immaterial, untouched by the constraints of the physical world, free to reason, to reflect, to doubt. But if mind and body are separate, how do they interact? How can thoughts move the body? And how can physical sensations give rise to emotion? When you feel pain, is it your body that suffers, or is it you, the conscious observer within? If someone touches your hand, what truly experiences the sensation, your nerves, your skin, or something deeper? Descartes believed that the mind and body, though separate, were connected through a mysterious point of interaction, something beyond the reach of science, something profound yet unknowable. Even today, this question remains unanswered. Are we merely physical beings, collections of atoms shaped by the blind forces of nature? Or is there something beyond the material in essence, a soul, a presence that transcends the limits of the body? You close your eyes for a moment, listening to the quiet rustle of leaves in the evening wind. The body moves, but the mind perceives. The eyes see, but the soul understands. There is a delicate, imperceptible boundary between the tangible and the intangible. Where do you exist? In your body or in your thoughts? If your body were to change, if your face, your voice, your limbs were all replaced, would you still be you? The lake before you is still unbroken, yet beneath its surface, two realms remain seen, one unseen, and somewhere between them, in the quiet space where thought and form meet, you exist. You stand at the water's edge, watching your reflection shift in the rippling lake. The image wavers, distorting slightly, yet you know it is still a reflection of you. But is it truly you? The form in the water moves as you move, mimicking every tilt of your head, every blink of your eyes. Yet, if you were to reach out, your hand would grasp only the surface, cold, fluid, and intangible. This reflection is not you, yet it is inseparably linked to your existence. This idea, the separation of form and essence, body and mind, has fascinated thinkers for centuries. If our physical bodies are governed by the same natural laws as the stars and oceans, where does the mind fit in? Is it simply a complex arrangement of neurons, an illusion crafted by the brain? Or is it something greater, something beyond the grasp of science? Plato's vision of reality divided into the world of forms and the world of matter suggests that everything in the material world is a mere shadow, a temporary imitation of something eternal. To him, the body was part of this transient world, subject to decay, while the soul, the true essence of a person, belonged to the eternal realm of truth and knowledge. To understand this, he gave the analogy of a prisoner in a cave, seeing only shadows on a wall, mistaking them for reality. To see the world as it truly is, one must escape the cave, step into the light, and comprehend the world of forms, the higher reality that gives meaning to everything we see. This idea influenced countless others, including religious traditions that speak of the soul as a separate entity, distinct from the body. Hinduism, for instance, describes Atman, the true self, which exists beyond physical limitations and is one with the universe. Christianity speaks of the soul's journey beyond death, an eternal existence beyond the fleeting shell of the human body. In Buddhism, there is a paradoxical twist. There is no singular, unchanging soul, but rather a stream of consciousness, an ever-changing collection of experiences, desires, and perceptions. And yet, science presents a challenge to these ideas. Today, we understand the brain in ways that ancient philosophers could never have imagined. We can map thoughts, emotions, and even personality traits to specific areas of the brain. When you feel joy, neurons fire. When you remember a childhood memory, electrical impulses race through neural pathways. If the brain is damaged, a person's thoughts, identity, even their very sense of self can change. If the mind is truly separate from the body, then why does it depend so much on the brain? Yet, even with all our knowledge, the most fundamental question remains unanswered. Why do we experience consciousness at all? Science can measure brain activity, but it cannot explain why we feel, why we dream, why we look in the mirror and see not just a body, but a self. This question has puzzled thinkers for centuries. The philosopher David Chalmers called it the hard problem of consciousness. Why does the brain, a physical object, create subjective experiences? Imagine you build an advanced robot, one that can see, hear, and even speak. It can process information, react to stimuli, and answer questions. But does it have thoughts? Does it experience emotions the way you do? When it sees a sunset, does it feel awe? When it hears music, does it experience beauty? Or is it simply processing data, following instructions with no inner world of its own? This is the heart of the debate between dualism and materialism. Dualists argue that consciousness is something beyond the brain, an immaterial force that cannot be explained through science alone. Materialists, on the other hand, believe that everything our thoughts, emotions, and sense of self is simply the result of physical processes in the brain. And yet, even in modern science, the idea of two realms of existence persists. Quantum physics reveals a world that defies our understanding of reality, where particles can exist in multiple states at once, where observation itself seems to shape existence. The philosopher Karl Popper suggested that reality could be divided into three worlds: the physical world, the world of mental experiences, and the world of ideas and knowledge, separate yet interconnected. You take a step back from the water's edge, feeling the cool airbrush against your skin. What is real? The body you inhabit, or the mind that perceives it? The external world, or the thoughts and emotions that shape your experience of it? If you could exist without a body, drifting through the realm of pure thought, would you still be you? In the quiet of the evening, the question lingers, unanswered, yet endlessly compelling. The night deepens, and the lake before you stills, mirroring the infinite sky above. Stars flicker in the darkness, distant and untouched, yet somehow connected to you, to this moment. Are they separate from you, or are they part of the same vast existence? The same question lingers within. Where does the boundary between the mind and the body, between self and world, truly lie? Dualism has shaped human thought for centuries, influencing not just philosophy, but religion, art, and even the way societies function. We have always been drawn to the idea that we are something more than our physical bodies, that within us lies an essence untouched by the decay of flesh. It is why we fear death, yet dream of eternity. It is why we seek meaning beyond mere survival, why we tell stories of souls that journey beyond this world. You close your eyes for a moment. Imagine waking up in a world where science has advanced beyond imagination. A future where consciousness can be transferred into machines, where the body is no longer needed. If your thoughts, memories, and personality were uploaded into a synthetic form, would you still be you? If a copy of your mind was made, indistinguishable in every way, but housed in a different body, would that person also be you or someone else entirely? These are not just distant possibilities. Even now, scientists and philosophers grapple with the nature of selfhood in a world of artificial intelligence and neurotechnology. If the mind can be altered, if memories can be rewritten, where does the real self exist? Could it be that what we call identity is nothing but a stream of ever-changing thoughts, momentary flashes of consciousness strung together by memory? And yet, despite these questions, we experience life as though we are whole, as though there is a single I that moves through time. You remember childhood, feel emotions, recognize yourself in a mirror. Is this an illusion, or is it proof that mind and body, though distinct, are inseparably intertwined, like light and shadow? Descartes, the father of modern dualism, believed that the mind was a non-physical substance existing independently from the body. But if this were true, how could the mind influence the body, and the body influence the mind? Why does stress manifest in sickness, Why do emotions alter the rhythm of the heart? If the mind and body are separate, why do they seem to dance together in perfect harmony, each affecting the other in ways too profound to ignore? Perhaps the truth lies not in separation, but in connection. Perhaps the self is not confined to the body, nor to the mind alone, but exists in the space between, in the invisible threads that bind thought to form, experience to action. Just as the sun and the moon shape the tides, the body and mind move together, each giving meaning to the other. You gaze again at the reflection in the water. It is not you, yet it is inseparably linked to you. It is a part of your existence, just as the body is part of the self, just as thought is part of reality. The stars continue to shine, silent and distant. The lake remains still. And in this moment you understand the self is neither mind nor body alone, but the quiet space between, the unspoken connection that binds them, the awareness that lingers even as thoughts fade and forms change. You turn away from the water, stepping back into the world with a new understanding. Dualism is not about division, it is about the recognition of two forces that shape one reality, not separate, but together. Not opposing, but in harmony, and as you walk forward, you carry within you the quiet knowledge that you are both flesh and thought, body and mind, finite and infinite, bound and free. Eternalism. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast desert as the sun begins to set. The golden sands stretch endlessly in every direction, shifting under the gentle whisper of the evening wind. The sky transforms into a canvas of orange and deep violet, a moment frozen in time, yet even as you watch, it changes. The past, the present, and the future all seem to converge in this single moment. You take a step forward, but is it truly forward? Or are you merely experiencing what has already been laid out before you? You close your eyes and listen. Somewhere in the distance, the sands whisper secrets that have existed for millennia. The stars above twinkle with light that has traveled across time itself, photons born millions of years ago only now reaching your eyes. If the light from a distant star can still be seen, does it mean that its past still exists? If the footprints you leave behind are evidence of where you once stood, does that mean the past is still real? And if the wind is already shifting the dunes into new shapes before you can perceive them, does the future already exist, just beyond your reach? This is the heart of eternalism, a philosophical view that challenges our deepest assumptions about time. We often think of time as a river, flowing from the past to the present and into the future. But what if time does not flow at all? What if the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously, like a vast and unchanging landscape, and we are merely travelers moving along its path? You stand still, looking at the horizon. Imagine for a moment that you are not bound by time as you perceive it. Imagine that the past is not gone, the future is not unwritten, and this very moment is not the only reality. What if every event, every birth, every death, every choice already exists, eternally present, like a mountain that has always been there, regardless of whether anyone stands upon it? This is what eternalism suggests, the idea that time is not a flowing sequence, but a vast structure, an unchanging whole where every moment coexists. According to this view, your first breath as a child still exists somewhere in the vast structure of time. So does the day you will take your last breath. You are simply experiencing one part of the timeline at this moment, but every moment past, present, and future is equally real. The desert before you is vast, but imagine it from above. From the perspective of a bird soaring high above the dunes, the entire desert is visible at once. It does not move or change. It simply is. Could time be the same? Are we not merely walking across a landscape that has always existed? The idea of eternalism has fascinated both philosophers and physicists alike. Einstein's theory of relativity supports the notion that time is not an absolute linear progression, but a dimension much like space itself. If space exists in its entirety, with no part of it truly vanishing or appearing from nothing, then why would time be any different? From a certain perspective, your childhood, your old age, and this very moment all exist as part of a grand, unchanging structure. You take another step into the desert. The grains of sand beneath your feet shift and scatter, but does that mean they cease to exist? No, they are simply moving to a different place, taking a different form. Perhaps time itself is the cement a thing truly disappears. Nothing is truly yet to come. Everything simply exists. And yet, if everything is already laid out, does that mean we have no control over our choices? Are we merely puppets walking through an already written script? Or is it possible that even our decisions, our thoughts, our will, are part of this eternal framework, free, yet inevitable? As the sun lowers further, the stars begin to appear one by one. You gaze up, knowing that some of the light you see was emitted long before you were born, from stars that may no longer exist. And yet, their light still reaches you, proving that what once was still has an effect on what is. You take a deep breath, feeling both small and infinite, both fleeting and eternal. If eternalism is true, then you are not just a moment in time, but part of something much greater, something unchanging, something beyond the limits of perception. And as the first cool winds of night settle across the sands, you begin to wonder if everything already exists. Then what does it truly mean to live? As the night deepens, the stars above seem brighter, scattered across the sky like ancient symbols waiting to be deciphered. You remain still in the desert, your thoughts drifting with the cool wind. The question lingers if time does not flow. If past, present, and future all exist at once, what does that mean for you? Does it mean that your fate is already sealed? That every choice you believe you are making has already been made, playing out like a story written long before you turned its pages? Or is it that your choices are simply another part of this vast, eternal structure, as unchangeable as the stars themselves? You look up again, thinking of the light that has traveled for millions of years just to reach your eyes. The stars do not rush toward their future, nor do they grieve for their past. They simply exist, shining whether anyone sees them or not. Perhaps time, too, simply exists, unmoved by our perception of it. The ancient Stoics believed that what happens was always meant to happen. They saw fate as an unbreakable chain of cause and effect, binding every event together into a grand design. And yet, they did not see this as a reason to surrender to helplessness. Instead, they embraced it, finding peace in knowing that to resist time, to resist what is as futile as trying to push the waves back into the sea. If time is truly like a vast landscape, then perhaps we are not helpless travelers after all. Perhaps we are merely exploring different parts of a reality that has always been there, our footsteps tracing paths that have always existed. Does this make our lives meaningless? Or does it mean that everything we do is eternally significant? Imagine a painting so large that you can only see a tiny portion of it at any given moment. To you, it appears incomplete, unfinished. But to someone standing far enough away, the entire picture is visible. The painting is whole, even if you can only see part of it. If eternalism is true, then our lives are like that painting. Every joy, every sorrow, every triumph and failure is already part of a masterpiece, even if we cannot see the whole. But this idea raises another question. If the future already exists, does that mean we can never change it? Are we bound to a fate we cannot escape? The philosopher David Lewis once argued that just because all of time exists does not mean we do not have free will. Imagine a book that has already been written, its story set from the first page to the last. To an outside observer, the entire story is visible at once. But to the characters inside the book, each decision still feels real, each page turned a new discovery. They may not know the ending, But does that mean they are not making choices? The cool desert wind stirs the sand around your feet, whispering secrets that seem to drift between past and future. If everything already exists, then every moment of happiness you have ever felt still exists. Every smile, every moment of peace, every love you have ever known is eternal. You have never truly lost anything. But the same is true for suffering. Every pain, every regret, every moment of loss also exists, unchanging. If time is an unbroken landscape, then the past is not gone. The future is not waiting at all, simply is. For centuries, Buddhist philosophy has embraced a similar idea, teaching that attachment to time, to past and future, is the source of suffering. The past is a memory, the future an illusion, and only the present moment is real. But if eternalism is true, even the present moment is simply one part of a whole that has already been shaped. And yet, you are still here, standing in the desert, feeling the night air against your skin, breathing, existing. Maybe it does not matter whether time flows or stands still. Maybe it does not matter whether fate is set or free will is real. Maybe what matters is how we choose to live in this moment, whether it is fleeting or eternal. Somewhere in the distance, the first hints of dawn begin to appear on the horizon. Another moment unfolding, another part of the great unchanging structure of time revealing itself to you. You take a step forward, not because you must, not because it is already written, but because this moment is yours. And whether or not it has always existed, whether or not it was ever going to be any different, one truth remains. You are here, and that is enough. The first rays of dawn stretch across the sky, painting it in soft hues of gold and violet. The cool night air begins to warm, and for a moment it feels as if time itself is waking up. But if eternalism is true, the sunrise has always existed. It was never truly absent, only unseen from where you stood. Perhaps your entire life is like this, not a series of fleeting moments passing through your hands, but a vast landscape already complete, waiting to be experienced from different perspectives. If you could step outside time, you would see your entire existence all at once, every moment laid out like stars in the sky. Nothing ever truly gone, nothing ever truly ahead. But what would it mean to see life this way? You think back to ancient philosophers who wrestled with the nature of time. Some believed that if the past and future exist just as much as the present, then change itself is an illusion. Nothing really happens. Nothing really becomes. Everything simply is. This idea troubled many thinkers, for it suggested that our choices are meaningless, our lives mere performances in a play where the script has already been written. And yet, others saw in this idea something deeply reassuring, the notion that no moment is ever truly lost. Every experience, every love, every lesson learned remains eternally present, even if we no longer see it. You pause, watching the sun climb higher. In the distance, a river winds through the desert, carving its path over thousands of years. To an observer standing at its banks, the water seems to move, rushing forward, always changing. But from above, from a great enough distance, the river is still. It has always been there, its course set long before any drop of water arrived. Could time be the same? In ancient Hindu and Buddhist thought, there is a belief that time is cyclical rather than linear. The past does not simply vanish, and the future does not unfold in a straight line. Instead, time loops and folds upon itself, repeating endlessly in great cosmic cycles. In some traditions, it is said that you have already lived this life before, and you will live it again. The Greek philosopher Parmenides once argued something similar. He believed that change is an illusion, that everything past, present, and future exists at once, unchanging. What we see as motion is merely our limited perspective shifting through an unbroken reality. You wonder, if this is true, does it mean we are trapped? Are we just moving through a pattern that has already been set, unable to alter the course of our lives? Perhaps the answer lies not in whether the future is fixed, but in how we experience it. If eternalism is true, then every decision you make, every thought you have already exists in the fabric of reality. But that does not mean they do not matter. What we see as motion is merely our limited perspective shifting through an unbroken reality. You wonder, if this is true, does it mean we are trapped? Are we just moving through a pattern that has already been set, unable to alter the course of our lives? Perhaps the answer lies not in whether the future is fixed, but in how we experience it. If eternalism is true, then every decision you make, every thought you have, already exists in the fabric of reality. But that does not mean they do not matter. Imagine walking through a vast garden, full of winding paths and towering trees. You may not have planted the trees, and the paths may have already been drawn, but the way you walk through it is your own. The choices you make to stop and admire a flower, to sit beneath the shade of an old oak are still yours. And even if every step has already been taken, it does not take away the experience of walking. Some physicists today suggest that time is not what we think it is. Quantum mechanics hints at a reality where cause and effect are not so straightforward, where the past and future may influence each other in ways we do not yet understand. If this is the case, then perhaps our choices shape reality not just in the present, but in ways that ripple across all of time. As the sun rises higher, the warmth on your skin feels different not as a moment passing, but as something eternal existing in its own right. You close your eyes, and for the first time, you truly feel the weight of what this means. If time is already written, then you were always meant to be here, in this moment. Every struggle, every joy, every decision has brought you to this exact place, exactly as it was always meant to. And just as this moment will always exist, so too will all the others. You think of the people you have loved, the ones you have lost, the memories that feel distant, slipping away with each passing year. But if eternalism is true, then they are not gone. They have not slipped away. They are still there, still existing in their own part of the timeline, just as real as they ever were. You may not see them, but they are not lost. This is the great comfort of eternalism. Nothing is ever truly over. Every laugh, every touch, every whispered word in the dark remains. You are not racing against time, because time is not something that can be outrun. It simply is. And so, you breathe in deeply, feeling the weight of this truth settle in your chest. The world is not slipping through your fingers. You are not moving toward an ending. You are simply experiencing different parts of a reality that has always been whole. The wind shifts again, carrying with it the scent of the desert and the distant sound of water. You open your eyes. The day stretches before you, full of possibilities, and for the first time, you do not fear the passing of time. Because you now understand nothing is ever truly gone, you turn and take a step forward. Not toward the future, but into the eternal present. Because that is where you have always been, and that is where you will always be. Pantheism. Imagine you are walking through a dense, ancient forest. The towering trees stretch endlessly into the sky, their leaves rustling softly in the wind. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth, and the ground beneath your feet feels alive, pulsing with an energy that is both unseen and deeply felt. You pause for a moment, listening not just to the chirping of birds or the distant whisper of a stream, but to something deeper, something that seems to hum beneath everything. It is not a voice, and yet it speaks. It is not a presence, and yet it is everywhere. This is the essence of Pantheism belief that the universe and everything within it is divine, that God is not separate from the world, but is the world itself. There is no distant deity sitting beyond the stars, no entity standing apart from creation. God is the trees, the rivers, the mountains. God is the breath in your lungs, the pulse in your veins. God is not above reality, God is reality. This idea is not new. It has existed in various forms across cultures and civilizations, from the Stoics of ancient Greece, who saw the cosmos as a rational, divine being, to the spiritual traditions of India, where Brahman, the ultimate reality, is seen as both the universe and beyond it. In Spinoza's philosophy, pantheism took on a new form. God is nature itself, an infinite substance of which we are all expressions. But to truly understand pantheism, one must experience it not as an abstract idea, but as a feeling, an awareness that seeps into every corner of existence. You take another step forward, feeling the moss-covered earth give slightly beneath your feet. The thought occurs to you, if everything is divine, then you are divine as well. Not in the sense of possessing supernatural power, but in the realization that there is no separation between you and the universe. The same atoms that form the stars also form your body. The same force that moves the tides moves your thoughts, your emotions, your very existence. What does it mean to live in a world where everything is sacred? For the pantheist, worship is not confined to temples, churches, or holy books. Worship is simply being. Every act, walking, breathing, thinking is an interaction with the divine. When you gaze at the vast expanse of the night sky, you are not looking at something separate from yourself. You are looking at another form of the same reality that flows through you. The wind shifts, carrying with it the scent of pine and wet earth. In that moment, you realize how small you are, and yet how deeply connected. The vastness of the cosmos is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. Because if pantheism is true, then you are never alone. The universe is not indifferent. It is you, and you are it. You recall the words of the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Everything harmonizes with me, which is harmonious to thee, O universe. Nothing for me is too early, nor too late, which is in due time for thee. This is the peace that pantheism offers, not the hope for an afterlife, not the promise of divine intervention, but the simple, profound realization that you are already a part of something infinite. There is no waiting, there is no seeking, there is only being. You close your eyes, and for the first time, you truly feel it, not as a thought, but as a presence. The gentle sway of the trees, the distant call of a bird, the rhythmic rise and fall of your own breath. It is all one, and it has always been. You continue walking through the forest, each step sinking slightly into the earth. The trees stretch endlessly in every direction, their canopies forming a vast cathedral above. The further you go, the more you feel the presence of something greater, not an entity watching from above, but an energy woven into every leaf, every breath of wind, every drop of water. It is not something separate from you, it is you. The pantheist sees no distinction between the divine and the world. Everything, from the tiniest grain of sand to the swirling galaxies beyond sight, is part of the same sacred reality. This idea has resonated throughout history, echoing in the words of sages, poets, and philosophers. The Indian Upanishads describe Brahman, the ultimate essence of reality, as both the universe itself and beyond it. The Taoists of ancient China speak of the Tao, the natural order that flows through all things. The Stoics believed in the Logos, the rational structure of existence, a divine force shaping everything in perfect harmony. You pause by a slow-moving stream, watching how the water bends around stones, shaping itself effortlessly to whatever lies ahead. This, too, is an expression of the divine. A river does not resist, does not force its way it flows. Pantheism teaches that we, too, are part of this flow, part of a reality that moves with or without our control. To accept this is to find peace. Imagine standing at the edge of the ocean, feeling the waves rush toward you before retreating back into the vastness of the sea. Imagine watching the stars appear in the night sky, knowing that the light you see has traveled for millions of years to reach your eyes. The pantheist does not see these things as separate from themselves. They see them as reflections of the same existence that pulses within them. You have never truly been apart from the universe. The illusion of separation, the belief that we are isolated, confined within our own bodies, alone in our own mindsets, one of the greatest barriers to understanding this philosophy. Many traditions speak of breaking this illusion. The Buddhist concept of interdependence teaches that all things exist only in relation to one another, that nothing has an independent essence. In the West, the poet Walt Whitman once wrote, "I am large. I contain multitudes." A single human being is not just one thing. They are the entire history of the cosmos condensed into a single moment. And yet, so often, we fail to see this. You sit on a fallen tree, the rough bark pressing against your palms. You recall moments in your life when you felt truly connected, staring at a sunset, feeling the warmth of another person's presence, standing in awe before something too vast to comprehend. These moments are not coincidences. They are glimpses of something deeper. They are reminders that you have never been separate. For the pantheist, spirituality is not about worshiping a deity in the sky. It is about experiencing life fully, being present, and recognizing the sacred in everything. A single breath is divine. The warmth of the sun on your skin is divine. The laughter of a friend, the stillness of night, the rhythmic beat of your own heart, all of it is divine. The ancient philosopher Baruch Spinoza once described God not as a ruler of the world, but as the world itself. To Spinoza, God was nature, infinite and boundless, existing in everything and everyone. He did not see prayer as a request to a being outside of the universe, but as a form of deep contemplation, a way to align oneself with the flow of existence. To love the world was to love God, because there was no difference between the two. You look up at the branches above, their patterns intertwining like veins in a living organism. A bird perches on a branch, tilting its head as if studying you. For a brief moment you wonder, if the universe is conscious through us, could it also be conscious through this bird, through the trees, through the wind? Many pantheists believe that consciousness is not confined to the human mind. It is not something that belongs solely to individuals, it is something that permeates existence itself. Some describe it as a field, an interconnected web of awareness that manifests in countless forms. Others see it in the way nature operates with such balance, as if some unseen intelligence guides it. You close your eyes, listening to the distant rustling of the trees. The wind moves through them as it moves through you. You breathe in, and the universe breathes with you. There is no separation. There never was. Perhaps the greatest lesson of pantheism is not that the universe is divine, but that we are already a part of it. There is nothing to seek, nothing to attain. You do not need to search for meaning, you are the meaning. Every moment, every experience, every fleeting second is part of a larger whole. You stand, feeling the earth solid beneath your feet. The path ahead winds through the trees, disappearing into the golden glow of the setting sun. For the first time, you walk without hesitation, without the need to reach a destination, because now you understand. You were never lost. You were home all along. You walk deeper into the forest, the sound of your footsteps blending with the rustling of leaves. The air is rich with the scent of earth and pine, and for the first time in a long while you feel no need to rush. The world is not something separate from you. It is not something to be conquered or owned. It is something to be experienced. The pantheist does not look at nature as a resource, but as an extension of themselves. To love the world is to love oneself. To harm the world is to harm oneself. The trees around you stand like ancient sentinels, their roots stretching deep beneath the surface. In their stillness, they tell a story of patience, of quiet resilience. They do not resist the seasons. They do not fight the rain or the wind. They simply exist, allowing the world to move through them. This, too, is the way of pantheism. You begin to see the world differently. Every leaf, every drop of water, every breath of wind is alive with meaning. The sunlight filtering through the canopy is not just light, it is energy, flowing endlessly from one form to another. The river does not fight its course. It does not wish to be elsewhere. It moves because that is its nature, and you too are moving. You too are part of something vast and infinite. Imagine for a moment that time itself is not a straight line but an endless cycle. Imagine that every life, every moment, is a thread woven into a grander tapestry. Pantheism dissolves the illusion of separation. If everything is part of the same divine existence, then nothing is ever truly lost. A fallen leaf does not mourn its descent. It becomes part of the soil, nourishing the tree from which it came. A wave does not fear dissolving into the ocean. It was never separate to begin with. The ancient Hindus spoke of Brahman, the infinite reality that exists in all things. The Taoists called it the Tao, the nameless flow of existence. The Stoics believed in the Logos, a rational force that gives order to the universe. Across cultures and centuries, the same truth has echoed in different words. You are not apart from existence. You are existence. A thought rises in your mind. If everything is one, if there is no true division, then what happens to fear, to suffering, to loss? The pantheist does not deny pain. They do not turn away from suffering, but they see it as part of the great unfolding of the universe. Just as a storm gives way to clear skies, just as night surrenders to dawn, so too do hardship and sorrow pass through the flow of existence. Nothing is permanent, yet nothing is ever truly gone. A single raindrop does not last forever, but when it falls into the river, when the river flows into the sea, when the sea rises into the sky, has the raindrop been lost? Or has it simply changed? The pantheist sees life this way. There is no true beginning. There is no true end. There is only change. A flower that blooms and withers is not a failure. It is a continuation of something greater. The wind that sweeps across the earth does not question where it has been or where it is going, simply moves. And so do we. You recall moments in your life when you felt disconnected, when you believed you were alone. But were you ever truly alone? The same atoms that form the stars form your body. The breath you take was once the breath of trees, of oceans, of ancient beings long forgotten. You are not just living in the universe. You are the universe, experiencing itself. Sweeps across the earth does not question where it has been or where it is going, simply moves, and so do we. You recall moments in your life when you felt disconnected, when you believed you were alone. But were you ever truly alone? The same atoms that formed the stars form your body. The breath you take was once the breath of trees, of oceans, of ancient beings long forgotten. You are not just living in the universe. You are the universe, experiencing itself. As you walk, a memory surfaces perhaps from childhood, or perhaps from a time even further back. A moment when you looked at the world with pure wonder, when every leaf, every stone, every star in the sky felt alive. It was not a thought, not an idea, but a knowing. A feeling that everything was connected, that everything mattered. This is the essence of pantheism. Not a belief to be memorized, not a doctrine to be followed, but a way of seeing, a way of feeling, a way of being. You stop at the edge of a clearing. Before you, the forest opens to a vast expanse of sky, deep and endless. The wind moves through the trees, carrying whispers of things long past and things yet to come. And yet, there is only this moment. A truth settles into your heart, simple and profound. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe. Every thought, every breath, every movement is a thread in the infinite tapestry of existence. There is nothing to fear, nothing to resist. You are already home. You close your eyes, feeling the pulse of life within and around you. There is no need for words, no need for explanation, just being, just existing, just flowing with the universe, as you always have, as you always will. The night sky stretches above you like an endless canvas, speckled with stars that burn with the light of ancient suns. Some of them have already vanished, their radiance still traveling across the cosmos, whispering the story of their existence long after their forms have dissolved. Time, as you have always known it, suddenly feels different. Not a straight path from birth to death, but an unfolding, an expansion, a dance without a clear beginning or end. You inhale slowly, feeling the cool air enter your lungs, and then exhale, releasing it back into the world. The breath you take is not yours alone, it belongs to the earth, the sky, the ocean. It has been here before you, and it will be here long after. A single breath, just like a single life, does not belong to any one being. It is part of something greater. In this quiet moment, a realization settles into your heart. The universe does not need you to conquer it. It does not ask you to define it. It simply invites you to be. There is no battle to be won, no final answer to be uncovered, only the experience of being alive, the beauty of presence, the acceptance of all things as they are. Pantheism is not just a philosophy, it is a way of seeing, a way of being fully present in the mystery of existence without demanding that it be anything else. To understand that you are not separate from life, but woven into its very fabric, that every heartbeat, every wave, every gust of wind is part of a sacred, infinite connection. You think of the ocean, how it stretches beyond sight, its waves rising and falling in an endless rhythm. Each wave is unique, but none are separate. A wave does not fight against the ocean, it moves with it. It does not fear dissolving, for it knows it was never truly alone. And you, too, are a wave upon this vast sea of existence. You rise, you fall, you transform, but you are never lost. The self you have known, the name you have carried, the identity you have built, these are merely ripples upon the surface. Beneath it, something deeper, something eternal, remains. You close your eyes, and for a moment, you allow yourself to dissolve into this truth. You imagine the great mountains, standing tall against time itself, slowly eroding yet never ceasing to exist. You imagine the rivers that carve through the valleys, shaping the land as they move, never clinging to one form but always part of the whole. You imagine the stars that burn and fade, yet their essence lives on in the very atoms that make up your body. If everything is part of the same divine existence, then what is death but another transformation? What is loss but a change in form? What is fear but the illusion of separation? The pantheist does not grieve the falling leaf, for they know it will nourish the soil. They do not fear the setting sun, for they know it will rise again. They do not cling to permanence, for they know that the essence of life is motion, change, and endless rebirth. The forest hums around you, alive with unseen movement. The wind brushes against your skin, carrying with it the breath of the mountains, the rivers, the stars. You are part of it all. And for the first time, perhaps, you do not feel the need to search for meaning. You have found it. Or rather, it has found you. A single drop of rain lands on your forehead, cool and gentle. You smile, knowing that this water has traveled through clouds, through rivers, through the very depths of the earth. It has been here before, and it will be here again. And so will you. You stand at the edge of the clearing, feeling the weightlessness of understanding settle in. There is no fear, no uncertainty, only the quiet knowing that you belong, that you always have. The journey does not end here, for how could it? There is no final destination in a universe that has no edges, only more paths, more moments, more unfolding. And as you take your first step forward, you are no longer a seeker, you are part of the very thing you sought. The stars shimmer above, ancient and patient. The trees stand tall, whispering in the language of time. The wind moves through the world, carrying the breath of all who have come before and all who will come after. And in this moment, you are everything and nothing at once. You are home. Presentism. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast desert. The golden sand stretches infinitely in all directions, warm beneath your feet, shifting ever so slightly as the wind dances over the dunes. The sky above is a deep blue, unmarked by clouds, an endless canvas where time itself seems to pause. You take a step forward. The grains beneath you compress, leaving behind the imprint of your foot. Yet, before you can fully register it, the wind sweeps through, whispering across the dunes, erasing any trace of your passage. You pause, watching the grains scatter, blending once again into the vastness. The past disappears as soon as it happens. The future exists only as a possibility. What remains? Only this moment. Presentism, the idea that only the present is real. The past is gone, no longer tangible, just a fading memory. The future is uncertain, existing in thought alone. The only thing that truly exists, that you can touch, feel, and experience, is the now. But what does it mean to live in the present? You close your eyes, letting go of the questions that pull you back into the past or push you forward into the unknown. For now, there is only this breath, this sensation, this heartbeat. You inhale deeply, feeling the crisp desert air fill your lungs. The world around you is silent, yet alive. The whisper of the wind against the dunes, the distant call of an unseen bird, the subtle warmth of the sand beneath your feet. Every sensation is here, in this moment. Philosophers throughout history have pondered the nature of time. Ancient Buddhist monks sat in deep meditation, realizing that suffering comes from attachment to the past and anxiety about the future. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, urged himself to focus only on the present, knowing that worrying about what is already past or what is yet to come is wasted energy. Even modern physics suggests that time may not be a flowing river, but rather a series of frozen moments, experienced one after another, with no true past or future-only snapshots of now. You lift your hand, watching the way the sunlight glows against your skin. The movement is real, but the second it happens, it's gone, replaced by a new moment, another fragment of now. If only the present exists, then what are we? Are we defined by the stories we tell ourselves about the past? Or are we something far simpler, just this consciousness, in this fleeting instant? The mind resists this idea. It wants to cling to what was and what will be. It wants certainty, a narrative, a sense of control. But the truth is, no matter how much we try to hold onto the past, it is like trying to grasp water in our hands, always slipping away. You let your thoughts drift, wandering through memories. You grasp at the past, trying to relive it, but no matter how vivid, no matter how detailed, it is not real. You can remember a sunset, but you cannot step back into it. You can recall the laughter of a loved one, but the sound exists only in echoes within your mind. The past has dissolved, like footprints in the sand. And the future? It is just as elusive. You can plan, predict, imagine, but you cannot step into tomorrow. It does not yet exist. Yet, despite this truth, how much of life is spent outside of the present? People dwell on regrets, replaying old conversations, wondering about different choices. Others anxiously anticipate what's ahead, crafting stories about an uncertain tomorrow, fearing outcomes that may never come. But all of that is an illusion. The only moment you will ever truly experience is this one. A gentle breeze moves through the desert, shifting the landscape in small, imperceptible ways. Just as the sand dunes reshape with each passing moment, so too does life. Change is constant, and resisting it, clinging to what was, or fearing what will be only, brings suffering. Presentism invites you to let go, to exist fully in what is, rather than being lost in what was or what might be. You take a slow breath, feeling the rhythm of the air moving in and out. There is peace in this moment, not because it is extraordinary, but because it simply is. Nothing more, nothing less. There is no past to regret, no future to anticipate. Only this, right now. The sun begins to lower in the sky, stretching shadows across the sand. You feel no rush to leave, no urgency to move forward. For the first time, you are exactly where you are meant to be, not trapped in thought, not lost in time, but fully awake to the reality of now. And as you stand there, with the wind against your skin and the earth beneath your feet, you realize that you have always been here. You just had to notice. The wind shifts again, brushing against your skin like the softest whisper. The dunes before you have changed, ever so slightly, shaped by forces unseen, yet inevitable. You take another step, but now with a different awareness. You no longer walk with thoughts burdened by the past or worries about what lies ahead. You simply move, existing in the present, moment by moment, like the grains of sand carried by the wind. For a brief instant, you wonder if only the present is real. Then what happens to everything that came before? Does it vanish completely? If the past is an illusion, then why does it feel so real? You recall old moments, memories wrapped in emotion, events that shaped you into who you are. Are they simply echoes, or do they hold something more? The mind clings to the past because it is familiar. The mind fears the future because it is unknown, and yet neither of them exists in this moment. The present is the only place where life happens. But to truly understand this, you must first recognize how much time is spent outside of it. You think of the way people live, how their minds constantly drift. A person sits by the ocean, but instead of feeling the waves crash against the shore, they are lost in thought, replaying a conversation from years ago. Another walks through a forest, but instead of hearing the rustle of leaves beneath their feet, their mind is filled with worries about tomorrow. Moments pass, unnoticed, unexperienced, lost to a mind that is always elsewhere. How much of life has already slipped away unnoticed? How many sunrises were missed because the mind was trapped in yesterday's regrets? How many simple joys went unappreciated because the mind was too focused on what might happen next? The desert before you is always shifting, reshaping itself with the wind. But if you are too lost in thought, you will not see it change. If you are too lost in thought, you will not even feel the warmth of the sun on your skin. You close your eyes, allowing yourself to settle into the present once more. The past, no matter how deeply you reach for it, is like sand slipping through your fingers. The future, no matter how much you try to predict it, is always just beyond your grasp. What remains is now. And yet, even as you understand this, the mind resists. There is a voice inside, soft but persistent, that asks, "But how can one live only in the present?" It seems impossible. Life requires planning, remembering, preparing. You cannot forget the past completely, nor can you ignore the future entirely. If you did, how would you learn from mistakes? How would you prepare for what is to come? But Presentism does not ask you to forget the past. It does not ask you to neglect the future. It only asks that you see them for what they truly are: thoughts, nothing more. The past is a memory stored in the mind. The future is an expectation formed in the mind. Neither is happening now, and yet the mind loves to tell stories. It takes moments that have already passed and weaves them into identity, shaping who we believe ourselves to be. It takes moments that have yet to come and fills them with hopes and fears. But these stories are not reality. They are just narratives. You let that thought settle. If the only real thing is the present, then who are you? Are you the person shaped by your past experiences, or are you something simpler, something more immediate? A being that exists only in this moment? Perhaps identity itself is an illusion, just another story the mind tells. You remember an old Zen teaching. A student once asked a master, "Who am I?" The master replied, "Before you were born, what were you?" The student had no answer. The master smiled and said, "Find the answer in this moment." The lesson was simple. Who you are is not defined by the past. It is not shaped by what has already happened. It is only real in the now. You are not the person from yesterday, nor are you the person of tomorrow. You are only this breath, this awareness, this experience of being alive. A gentle breeze moves across the sand. The sky, now painted with the soft hues of twilight, begins to darken. You watch as the first stars appear, their light stretching across the vastness. The stars. They have always been there, shining above the earth, their glow traveling across time itself. And yet, you can only see them now. No matter how many nights they have illuminated, no matter how many more nights they will shine, they only exist in your experience at this moment. Time is strange in this way. It is always moving, yet never truly separate from the now. You have never experienced the past as the past. When it happened, it was the present. You will never experience the future as the future. When it arrives, it will still be the present. The present is all there has ever been. You close your eyes again, inhaling deeply, feeling the weight of past and future fall away. The mind is quiet now, still and calm like the desert beneath the stars. There is nothing to chase, nothing to run from, nothing to hold on to, only this, only now. A thought arises, one final whisper from the part of your mind that still clings to the illusion of time. But if I live only in the present, what happens to all my dreams, my goals, my plans? You let the question remain for a moment before allowing the answer to come naturally. Living in the present does not mean abandoning dreams. It does not mean giving up on the future. It only means realizing that all action, all creation, all movement toward the future must happen in the now. You do not reach the future by thinking about it. You reach it by taking steps in the present. A musician does not compose a song by imagining the final piece in its entirety. They sit down and play one note at a time. A traveler does not reach their destination by thinking of the end point. They walk one step at a time. And so, life is not meant to be lived in the abstract world of past and future. It is meant to be lived in the reality of now. The wind shifts again, carrying the cool scent of the night air. The stars above seem closer now, as if they have always been waiting for you to notice them. The sand beneath your feet feels softer, more familiar. For the first time, you understand. You have always been here. You just had to notice. The night deepens, wrapping the desert in silence. The wind has softened now, a quiet breath moving across the dunes, shifting the sand grain by grain. You watch the way the landscape changes, though it is almost imperceptible. A small ridge smooths out. A ripple forms where the ground was once flat. The desert is never still, and yet, in this moment, it feels frozen in time. You wonder what is time, really? For as long as you can remember, time has felt like a river, always flowing forward. It carries everything with it moments, experiences, memory spulling them away into the past, while the future rushes in to take their place. But if the past no longer exists, and the future is yet to arrive, then where is this river flowing? Perhaps time is not something that moves at all. Perhaps it is not a current sweeping you along, but instead an endless series of no-each moments standing alone, separate, untouched by what came before or what will come after. You look at the stars again, their light stretching across the sky, so steady, so constant. The thought occurs to you. The stars you see are not as they are now, but as they were long ago. Their light has traveled across space for years, even centuries, before reaching your eyes. In a way, you are looking into the past, and yet, for you, they exist only in this moment. If everything is only experienced in the present, then is there such a thing as past and future at all? A memory surfaces, a moment from childhood. You recall running barefoot across a field, the the smell of fresh grass in the air, the sound of laughter carried by the wind. The memory feels so vivid, so real. But no matter how much you replay it in your mind, you are not there. You are here. The moment exists only as a thought, a fragment of something that was once present but no longer is. It is strange how the mind can hold so much, how it can keep the past alive through memory. But memory is not reality. It is a reflection, like the moonlight on water, a copy of something that once was, but never truly the thing itself. You recall another moment, one filled with worry about the future. A time when uncertainty loomed over you, when you felt the weight of what was to come pressing down on your chest. But that moment too has passed. The worries you once carried never materialized in the way you imagined. Some faded into nothing, others transformed into something unexpected. And yet, the fear you felt then was as real as the sand beneath your feet now. Why does the mind spend so much energy on things that are not real? You take a slow breath, feeling the air fill your lungs, then release it. This breath is real, this sensation, this heartbeat. But the thoughts of yesterday and tomorrow's are like shadows, flickering images cast upon the walls of the mind. You begin to see it clearly. People live trapped between two illusions, the illusion of the past and the illusion of the future. They cling to memories, shaping their identity around stories of what has already happened. They grasp at the future, filling it with expectations, hopes, and fears. But neither the past nor the future exists anywhere except within the mind. And yet, this is where most people spend their lives. The sun rises, but instead of watching it, they relive a conversation from yesterday. The wind moves through the trees, but instead of hearing it, they worry about a meeting next week. Time slips away, unnoticed, because the mind is always elsewhere. But what if you could step out of the illusion? What if you could see the past for what it is, not something to hold on to, but something that has already dissolved? What if you could see the future for what it is, not something to fear, but something that does not yet exist? You realize that to truly live, you must let go. Not in the way people often think, not by forgetting, not by refusing to plan, but by no longer mistaking memories for reality and possibilities for truth. To live in the present is not to abandon responsibility, but to understand that all action, all change, all movement happens now, never in some distant time. A musician does not play a song by focusing on the final note. A dancer does not perform by thinking about the last step. They are fully immersed in the movement, in the rhythm, in the experience of each passing second. Perhaps life is meant to be lived in the same way. You feel a sense of clarity, a lightness in your chest. The weight of the past loosens its grip, the pull of the future fades. There is nothing to reach for, nothing to escape from, only this moment, this breath, this awareness of existence itself. The wind shifts again, carrying the scent of earth and distant rain. The desert is alive, moving in ways unseen, but you do not try to capture it. You do not try to hold on to this moment or anticipate the next. You simply remain in it, experiencing it fully. For the first time, you are not thinking about time. You are simply being. And in that stillness, in that simple act of presence, you understand this is what it means to be truly alive. The night stretches endlessly above you. The stars remain fixed in their quiet glow, scattered across the sky like grains of sand caught in an invisible tide. The wind hums a soft melody as it moves over the dunes, shifting them ever so slightly, reshaping the land in ways too subtle to notice in the moment. Yet change is constant, even here. You sit down, feeling the coolness of the sand against your fingertips, letting it slip through your hands. The tiny grains are smooth, weightless, vanishing as easily as they appear. You think about how each grain has traveled, perhaps carried by storms, perhaps shaped by time, reduced from something vast into something small enough to slip through your fingers, much like memories. The past is like this sand something that once seemed solid, real, unshakable, but now drifts in scattered fragments, impossible to hold on to. You can reach for it, you can feel the remnants of what once was, but you can never step back into it. The past is gone, and yet, how often does the mind try to live there? People cling to memories as though they are something tangible. They hold on to moments of joy, trying to relive them, afraid to let them go. They grasp at moments of sorrow, turning them over and over, unable to move past them. But memories are not real. They exist only as thought shadows cast by something that no longer exists. And yet, people define themselves by their pasts. They say, "This is who I am because of what has happened to them." They carry their stories like heavy stones, some filled with pride, others with regret, but all shaping the way they see themselves. But if the past is gone, then who are you? You let another handful of sand slip through your fingers, watching as the grains scatter and disappear into the night. You feel a strange sense of lightness, a realization settling within you. You are not your past. You are not the sum of your memories. You are only what exists in this moment. And just as the past is gone, the future is equally uncertain. It exists only as an idea, a place the mind tries to visit, constructing possibilities, outcomes, fears, and dreams. But no matter how much you think about tomorrow, you can never touch it. It is always just beyond reach, and yet the mind spends so much time there. People fill their days with thoughts of what might happen, what they must prepare for, what they must worry about, what they must chase. They tell themselves that happiness will come later, once they reach a goal, once they fix something, once the future unfolds in a certain way. But the future is no more real than the past. It is a story yet to be written, a painting that has not yet been painted. Why do people live anywhere but in the now? The realization comes gently, like the wind brushing against your skin. The past is a memory. The future is a possibility. The only reality is the present. You close your eyes, letting this understanding sink deeper. There is no need to hold on to what is past. There is no need to chase what has not yet come. There is only this breath, this sensation, this quiet awareness of being alive. And yet the mind resists. It asks, but what about dreams? What about plans? If I do not think of the future, how will I grow? How will I move forward? You let the question rest, waiting for the answer to come, not forcing it, not chasing it. And slowly the answer arrives, not in words, but in understanding. Living in the present does not mean abandoning the future. It does not mean ignoring the past. It only means recognizing that the only place where life happens, the only place where you can act, change, and grow is now. A traveler does not reach their destination by imagining the road ahead. They take one step, then another. A writer does not finish a book by dreaming of the final page. They write one word, then another. Everything is created in the present. And so, you understand there is no need to worry about what is ahead. The only thing you must do is act in the now, with presence, with awareness. The future will come, but it will always arrive as the present. The wind shifts again, carrying the scent of distant rain, the coolness of the night wrapping around you. You feel no urgency, no pressure, no weight of time pressing upon you. There is nowhere to be but here. For the first time, perhaps in a long time, you feel free. You open your eyes. The desert remains unchanged, and yet everything feels different. The stars shine as they always have, but now you see them not as something distant, not as something tied to the past or the future, but simply as they are existing in this moment, just as you are. You take a slow breath, feeling the rise and fall of your chest. There is nothing to hold on to, nothing to chase, only this, and for the first time you do not feel lost in time. You feel present. The night deepens, stretching across the vast desert like a quiet blanket. The stars glow gently, scattered across the sky, neither hurrying nor hesitating. They simply exist, shining as they always have, unaffected by time, untouched by worry. You watch them, feeling the stillness of this moment. The wind moves softly, shifting the sand beneath your feet, yet it does not disturb you. You do not resist its touch, nor do you try to hold on to it. You let it be, just as it is. You let yourself be, just as you are. For so long, life has felt like something to chase, something always just ahead, waiting to be grasped. The mind is always moving, reaching for something more, something else, something beyond this moment. But here, now, there is no need to chase. The past has dissolved into memory. The future remains unwritten. All that remains is this, and it is enough. You close your eyes, feeling the quietness settle within you. The thoughts that once pulled you away, thoughts of yesterday, thoughts of tomorrow, have grown faint, distant, like echoes fading into the wind. You no longer feel the need to grasp them. You no longer feel the need to escape them. You are simply here. For the first time, you understand what it means to be present, not just in thought, not just as an idea, but as an experience. It is not about forgetting the past. It is not about ignoring the future. It is about seeing them for what they are: thoughts, stories, illusions that exist only within the mind. It is about knowing that the only place where life truly happens is in the now. And yet, the world does not teach this. The world teaches people to look forward, to plan, to build, to always be thinking of the next step. It teaches people to look back, to reflect, to define themselves by the path they have already walked. But it does not teach them to be where they are. It does not teach them to simply be. You think of the many moments that have already passed, the moments spent worrying about things that never happened, the moments spent reliving things that could not be changed. You think of the hours, the days, the years spent lost in thought, living everywhere except in the present. How much of life has been missed? The realization does not bring regret. It brings clarity. It brings peace. Because you know that no matter how much time has been lost, this moment is still here, and that is enough. The stars continue to shine, indifferent to time. The desert shifts, unchanged in its ever-changing nature. The wind moves, not forward, not backward, but simply as it is. And so do you. You rise to your feet, feeling the weightlessness of this understanding settle within you. There is nothing to fix, nothing to hold on to, nothing to fear. The mind will still try to pull you away at times. Thoughts will still come. The past will still whisper. The future will still call. But now, you know the truth. You are not those thoughts. You are not your past. You are not your future. You are only this breath, this heartbeat, this awareness of being alive. You take a step, and the sand shifts beneath you. A moment ago, that step did not exist. A moment from now, it will be gone. But in this instant, it is real. In this instant, it is everything. You walk forward, not toward anything, not away from anything, but simply as something, a presence, a being, a quiet witness to the unfolding of now. And in this moment, as the night stretches endlessly above you, as the wind carries the scent of distant rain, as the dunes shift in their silent rhythm, you understand there is nowhere to be. Nothing to chase, nothing to escape, only now. And for the first time, you do not resist it. You do not try to capture it. You simply live it. The desert continues to change. The stars continue to shine. The wind continues to move. And you remain present, where you have always been, where you will always be, in the only place that ever truly exists. Here. Now. And that's it. Take care. Consider subscribing and turn on the notifications for our next video, because sleep matters, right?